That this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel. And we'll do a roll call. Richard Bursch is present. Jack Rabbit.
Present.
Bob Pease.
Present.
Tom Bertram.
Present.
Carl Luck.
Present.
Todd Dwyer.
Present.
Ken Jones.
Yes.
100%.
Holy one.
Woohoo. We'll start with any public comment from the commission.
Yeah, Walks in the Woods, it's, the Walks in the Woods is next Sunday. We're meeting at the Ritter at 9:30. So the plan is to go out in the Lane property. I did not get a chance to update the flyer on the website, but I'll try to get that done this week.
Okay, yeah, and then we can have,
Yeah, actually, if you could just send me the Word form, I'm sorry to interrupt. I talked to Steve today. Just send me the Word document, updated or not. He'll just, because I gave him the particulars based on our last meeting, and then finally, he said that he would update it and post everything right back up.
All right, yeah, I'll send that to you tomorrow.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Luck.
It was great at our last meeting to get so much done, especially getting all the minutes caught up and all that. However, meeting till 11:30 at night is really something that shouldn't happen again. And I'm thinking we need to have some discussion at some point about how to either set some time limit, or I'd like to throw out for consideration during a discussion that we keep talking about maybe having workshops, because we never get, we serve the public, but then we never get to the stuff we're going to do, the regulations and so forth. We talk about workshops, but it doesn't happen. I'd like to suggest that we consider having a third meeting, an official third meeting, and perhaps that meeting is not scheduled for hearings, because once we get to hearings, it's about all we get to do. So I'd just like to have some discussion on that, and maybe set some time limit that, we go to a certain time, maybe plus a half an hour, but that's it, and it's a reasonable time, like 9 o'clock or something.
Okay, yeah, I think if we can bring that up at the end,
Okay.
certainly discuss that a little bit further. All right, any other?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I noticed
The microphone, Jack.
I noticed in the minutes, and possibly that was, because it was published beforehand, we were going to include a section for policy reviews and policy updates. And, it's more specifically what we'd be talking about, such as if people want to watch. We know we do have the policy on the walls. Yeah, what is a wall, what's not a wall, sitting out there, it's been there for a while. Also, I'd like to introduce another potential topic. It's funny, I received a voicemail from a resident. There was a complaint with regard to trees being removed, what he believed was within about 30 feet of the wetland on Peninsula Drive. And I didn't get it right away. And he says, I would have called Matt, but I know you, so I'm going to call you. And that comes back to the fact that this particular contractor, Matt, we've had some other issues, but possibly the way around us assuring that contractors don't go and just go ahead and start tearing trees apart and wetlands apart is that we amend our policies or regulations to essentially hold the contractor equally responsible, meaning that they've got to be asking the resident, did you get a permit? And I would like to see the order of conditions such that the contractor clearly understands what we've requested. And therefore, the contractor would no longer be just, do I have, I'm sure they're all being told, yeah, I have a permit, or the permit is coming and such, or maybe they don't even ask. So I'm thinking that I would like to propose that we address that one, and that's pretty quick. That would be a fairly quick one, and we can load it in there. So I think if we could just get our policy section up, and that feeds into Carl's piece, we never get there. And we've got a lot of things backed up that we want to fix.
Yep.
And I would just think we need to start doing things like that.
Okay.
And that will help us.
When we get into the time limits and the discussion about having an extra meeting.
Perfect. Thank you.
Well, just for clarification on that policy, I had received an email from Commissioner Luck asking that be placed on the September 7th agenda.
Okay.
So I was planning on doing that.
Okay. Good job. Thank you.
All right, any other comments from the commission? Any public comment from the public? All right, seeing none, we'll call our first hearing to order pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, and the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protections and Municipal Bylaws. A public meeting on a request for determination of applicability by Jeff Bingham for work at 150 Peninsula Drive will be held. Work entails repairs of existing structures, grading and landscaping in the rear yard and within the 100-foot buffer zone. Yeah, I saw Jeff come in. Jeff, and we have the applicants at this end of the table. We need a second chair. And if you can, just make sure to talk into the microphone as you show us what you're looking to do.
Jeff Bingham and my wife Chris. We have the forms, you did have
Copies of the folder,
packets
Anybody want to review?
There's a couple.
that were sent out.
Extras? Oh, these are just...
Did you get the emails, Matt?
Yes. Just so you know, Commissioner Rabbit and Commissioner Luck, that file also has previous filings with this commission in it, so it's a historical, it's the full file on the property itself.
Thank you.
Who'd you have do the renderings? Those came out pretty good.
You like that? Yeah. I went to school for that.
Oh, you did it really? It came out nice, other than the shrub-sized geraniums. That definitely gives a much easier, a much
Thank
better
you.
picture for understanding what you're
Oh.
looking to do in there. All right, so it says you're looking to do some work in the backyard, you know, I was looking for.
That's correct.
And I know a few commissioners went out on site on Saturday.
Yes.
Bob and I were on site on Saturday.
Okay. I guess what I was looking for was the diagram. Over here. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you mind just giving an overview of?
Yeah, just kind of start at the house and walk us.
Sure.
Looking at the sheet, just kind
We're
of.
having a lot of problems with runoff. There is no grass there. It's all either shrubs or bark mulch from the previous owner. It's all sloped from the house toward the water every time it rains. The bark mulch has been washing down into the lake. The existing stairs to the left are already there. Those are getting flooded with bark mulch, and it's going right down into the lake. Same with the walkway. These are patio blocks, pretty good size 2x2 patio blocks that go from the house, little squares down toward the deck. What I'm proposing is a rock wall similar to what Jack has, about the size of those type of boulders, along in front of the existing deck, and then all across to the property on the left side of our property. I'd like to level the yard from where the stairs are at the water to the rock boulders, and then put all that material up above the boulders on towards the house, so that I can level and plant grass there and level and plant grass up on the top.
With plants along the...
And
bushes
with
along
plants, yes.
To help with that stone wall, and also planting more bushes, or blueberry bushes along the shoreline. Because all the rocks along the shoreline, they're all just small round ones, and we spent all last few years throwing them up.
Keep
and
throwing them, yeah.
They just roll right back down. So there needs to be something, a lot of the soil is all exposed and eroding.
So right now, does it kind of slope from the house? Is it constant pitch all the way down to
Yeah.
the water?
That's correct.
Yeah, there's
right.
no flat, you can't even really use that area. It's all slanted, and it all washes mostly down to the stairs and down the stairs and into the water.
So about approximately how tall would this wall need to be?
Probably a good 3 feet at least. Yep.
Okay. And,
Mostly on the left side, not on the right.
all right, and right now, is this all grass, or what's he?
There's no grass.
Right now,
No.
so the
No,
whole backyard is all bark
It's
mulch? or
bark
all-
mulch, or there's blueberry bushes, or there's small evergreen bushes planted.
One of the things we observed on our site walk is in addition to it, all the bark mulch, there was evidence of erosion channels that you could see through the bark mulch right down to the lake. So, from my perspective, I favor this proposal just because it will prevent erosion and runoff into the lake, which is,
Right.
I think would be very beneficial.
Yeah.
You know, I concur with what he said. It's all just regular dirt, you know, there's nothing really binding the surface. You know, there is some very old, that creeping juniper, but it's kind of at the end of its life cycle.
Yeah.
And so there is some evidence of erosion, and I would also favor this.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I agree with the other members. I think what we learned at the MAC conference was essentially you put a few inches, you put any kind of water, and you've got more than a few inch slope, it'll find itself and it will create a channel. And so therefore, the right answer is to put some sort of a wall and take the slope out as much as you possibly can and allow it to perk. Just a question, Jeff, will you be taking any more vegetation out than there is right now? Or you'll be adding?
Taking any more out?
Vegetation out, will you be removing any of the vegetation along the shoreline?
In front of the existing deck right now, there's blueberry bushes that we plan to probably replant down closer toward the water and bring in more blueberry bushes
Okay.
to try and hold around the rock wall plus toward the lake, yeah. And then I'm looking for ideas on the two sides. There's open rocks for water collection. As you can see, there's a gutter on either side of the house that also drains. That's was part of the property that we already had. But I'm looking for ideas from the board as far as what I can put there to help collect the water and put it back into the ground before it goes washing into the lake, if that's a possibility that I can do. Or ideas of...
Well, one of the things I cited in I did a brief summary report that I usually do on these, they're preliminary recommendations to the commission, was that I thought your ideas for vegetative barriers are actually, the vegetative buffers are actually good. And you might want to look at proceeding along those lines.
Okay.
Doing something like finding an area where water tends to accumulate, run and accumulate, maybe making a little rain garden there, something that'll look really pretty, but attenuate all that rainfall, detain it for just a little itty bitty bit and just send it right on its way. A little rain garden like that, actually I think it was Ron Albert over an Island Road did a very similar setup and it worked really, really well. Those go a long, just a little planting goes a long way.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Luck?
First, I'd just like to clarify, in the report, Matt, I assume you're talking about there does appear to be erosion issue, that you mean a legitimate, not an illegitimate?
Yeah, legitimate.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Just clarify. 'Cause
Well, sorry, that could have been the spell check.
Yeah.
It has a tendency of
It is a
having
word.
a mind of its own, especially when I click save.
jumped out at me, it's like, oh. I mean, it sounds good, but I'm just a little concerned and from a procedural consistency of application point of view here, because what I see in the pictures, which are great, is a fairly gradual slope that's very not vegetated. So it's not surprising at all that it's eroding. Okay. And if we're going to have a 3-foot wall, then I assume there's only a 3 or 4 foot slope here. If you're going to have two level surfaces and a 3-foot wall, the total slope must be 3-4 feet. So it's not a really steep slope that the erosion can't be prevented without a wall. And I mean, there's a number of examples, from the 319 grant on Lake Shirley of vegetative buffer zones and a pretty steep slope near the lake that seems to work. So, and because what really jumps out at me is, I know this commission has said no to similar requests of putting the wall within the 30-foot buffer. So I'm very concerned all of a sudden now, based on, some good ideas and a great plan, but not an overwhelmingly compelling bad situation, to now go down a different path and set different precedents, and I don't know how you come back from this if we start allowing walls within the 30-foot no touch.
Carl, if I can share some more of my
Yeah,
observations. from
yeah,
the
and
site.
I apologize for not going. I had a senior moment, and I forgot it was Saturday.
I would say the change in elevation from the house to the lake is probably closer to 8 feet.
Okay.
It's a substantial drop. So the slope from the house to the lake is quite substantial. So even a 3-foot wall does reduce that slope and slow the runoff, I think would be beneficial. To your point, that's something that I completely agree with, that this would be setting a different precedent. I can tell you that in terms of what, there's no real vegetation in the areas that they want to do the major improvements, and there's no evidence for any sort of, animal burrows or anything like that. I mean, it's really just bark mulched, and, in my front yard, I have bark mulch and I have chipmunk holes everywhere. There was nothing.
Right.
So, it's,
I guess again, for us to change something that I know people that we've said no to, that want to put a very small 2-foot wall, 15, 20, 30 feet off, not even 30, off the lake, and they've not been allowed to. So I'm concerned about them going back, and I'm concerned about going forward, how we say no to the next wall, whether it be at 20 feet or right at the lake's edge, which we get a lot of requests for. And we're having people remove them.
Mr. Chairman? Yes. Through you to the applicant, Jeff, would it be possible to bring that wall back to the 30-foot line? I mean, would that be in line with what you guys were thinking about doing? I mean, right now you have it proposed at what, like 21 feet from the water?
21, at least, yeah.
Is there a possibility that that could come back, or would that not work with the grades and things you were thinking about?
The closer you bring it to the house, the higher the wall's gonna be.
Okay.
So,
Or the steeper the slope is from the
Right.
wall to the lake shore?
yeah. So if you brought it back to the 30 feet, I mean, you're only talking maybe 14 feet off the side of the house. And we didn't think that was gonna be enough room.
Yeah. But I don't, I don't think achieving a level front yard is a compelling issue to go against our regulations.
Actually, to back up, I did have a quick, I heard you talking about the lake edge. Were you planning any construction or anything along the lake edge other than right in the area of the stairs? You were talking about the small boulders and things along the waterfront that you were putting back in place?
That were already there,
Yep.
that we've put back. We've picked up the rocks and put them back into there.
but-
Not at this time that we're
Okay, so you're proposing,
planning
you're not
nothing
proposing
into
to
the water at all.
Change
No.
anything along the
No,
water's
no,
edge?
if we do, we're gonna add more blueberry bushes
Yep.
along that edge
Okay.
to enhance what the shrubbery is already
Yeah,
there.
because actually, in looking at most of the waterfront there, that's exactly what we're looking for. The rocks to help dissipate the
Yes.
wave action, and then the plants in there to hold the erosion back, which is great. It looks like the stairway has a small opening out into the lake with a little sand basin in it. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, the stairs go down, that was from the previous owner.
All right, and what were you looking to do to that stair area?
Leave it as is,
Okay, just leave it as is?
yes.
And we're gonna try to stone or do something in that area at the bottom that looks like it's eroding into the lake?
To the left of the stairs toward the property line, we can do that.
Yeah.
If that's.
I was just looking, had included a picture. That looks like it's the bottom.
It's all from the runoff.
Yep.
This is what happens constantly. It just all flows down and goes right over the stairs and out into the water, and there was some sand there.
Yeah.
And once after the rain, it just leaves big gullies. And then all the rock that's underneath is exposed and the sand's gone.
So we can do that to the left of the stairs. We can plant bushes over there too, if you'd like. That's.
Well, I was just thinking more right at that stair area, if we can continue with the water's edge, the stones, try to get in underneath that, because it looks like it's eroding in underneath that tie.
Yes,
Just to stop it from continuing to erode,
okay.
and perhaps even get a little soil and just plant some grass or something in there to help secure that soil at that bottom landing.
No, because that's a high water mark.
Okay, so that's
Is there.
underwater?
That's how far the lake is, the lake is down, so.
All right, yeah, then just try to shore that up underneath, just because it looks like it's undermining the tie.
Right. Mr. Chairman, are you suggesting boulders or something in front of that wall?
Yeah, just
Uh,
what they
enough
have on,
rocks to protect
what they have on the lakefront now.
Yeah.
Just
continue
that look. Yep, just continue that look, because you can see it right there, see how it just kind of stops.
Yeah.
And it's
Yes,
eroding
the
underneath.
rocks are stopping on either side of it. That's how we access down to the, to get into the lake, is
Yep.
through the stairs there.
Through the stairs
Yep.
there.
And that's all, that's original, that we haven't changed any of that.
Yep. Okay, yeah, and looking at it, certainly looks like we have to deal with some of the erosion, especially, I guess, to the left side. To the right side, what's the elevation change from the deck? It doesn't look like it's anywhere near as steep as the left side, so this area in here?
It's not as steep as the left side.
Yeah, it looks like it's just kind of gently. I mean, myself, I think with just a little bit better vegetation control, you should be able to control most of the erosion in this area, at least looking at the pictures you've included.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't look like it's anywhere near as steep. Wasn't on site, maybe Todd can add.
That's a fair assessment. The steepest area of the yard is definitely on the left side, left of the existing stairs.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, so, I like Ken's thought here, and I'd like to pursue that a little further with the 30 feet. And the comment was that the wall would get much taller, but I guess I don't quite understand that, because if what we're going to end up with the 3-foot wall is 2 level areas, I don't know how moving that wall back or forth changes the height.
Carl.
Yeah, if you're trying to be level from the top of the stairs and you're coming deeper into the hill, you're gonna have a wall that's higher.
Well, no, when I end up, I've got 2 level surfaces that are separated by a 3-foot wall.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter where I put that wall, it's still 3 feet if I got 2 level surfaces.
The one thing I will say, I don't know that they'll be able to achieve a level yard. I think they're probably going to be closer to maybe a 4 or 5 to 1 slope, something that's just a much more gradual slope than they
Right,
have now,
right.
based on the grade change on the left side of the yard.
And Mr. Chairman, I don't have a problem with creating a relatively level area for perking. You know, take the velocity out of the water, and by giving it 20 feet, you're going to slow it down considerably and allow it to perk in. It's all sand there. So I think it's to our advantage to, give it some level space, Carl, but I agree with you. This is an erosion control issue, and we've been, pretty tough on trying to minimize the level of changes. But I think, I like the idea of this becoming a perk area. And maybe taking the other side of that and throwing some sort of a water garden back up against that wall, so that'll give you a chance to perk down.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, we get the water back in the ground, but there are best management practices that you can put on a slope and get the water in the ground also.
And to be truthful with you, it also provides a level of usability and recreational enjoyment if you're dragging your boat up or whatever, you need a flat spot,
I agree.
And I think that we need to acknowledge that if we're not causing any harm and it creates a great opportunity, allow them to essentially have a level space to utilize and to enjoy.
And we have the ability to waive some of our regulations if it's better for the water, if it's better for the wetland. In this case, I would not be in favor of seeing a big 8-foot wall to make everything truly flat. But if you want to just decrease the slope a little bit to kind of, slow down the velocity of the water and cause, just more as a break. So I don't want to see level and level. But if we wanted to put, a small 2 or 3 foot wall in, kind of slow the water down, so you still got some slope to it, still encourage some, some planting, which they show here. I think that's better for the wetland.
I guess if you slow the water down, I don't know, I mean, if you meet the requirements of best management practices, I don't know that it's better for the wetland than a best management practice that does the same thing, that doesn't have a wall. Is there some, the enjoyment is, and this is a tough position to be in, you're not making any friends here, right? But you have to have policy and rules, or else, we can't achieve our goal. The next person comes in will have the same argument. I want to use, what's the product with a wall? But, so, is there an in-between of a wall that's, yeah, and that's where I was going to go. Is there a wall that's not a wall that,
Is that what you're
Something like that.
presenting to
As long as we
do?
can have some flat, and I'll do some planting in bushes, like some hydrangea bushes
Yeah.
at the top.
Which
To
picture are you
help hold
looking
the
at?
soil.
yeah. So, yeah, because if we get away from a wall and it's a sort of a stepped garden,
Yeah, see, that's more of
vegetated
a-
stepped area,
I
that's
would
not a wall.
I would consider that more of a landscaped slope.
Exactly, that's beautiful,
And a
that's
wall.
perfect.
Yeah.
I like that.
Something like, I don't know whether these are in there, like this or that one.
So what would you call it?
A landscaped slope.
A landscape.
I mean, there's
It
no
gives you the area
structure to call
absorb.
that a
You can have
wall.
grass and grass and you got
That's,
an area.
I mean, that would be a perfect, if you're changing grade from here to 3 feet, come up at a 1/3 angle and do a landscaped slope as opposed to a structured wall. That would certainly go a long
More natural
way.
looking to the lake.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah,
not looking
this
to
is-
do anything fancy and
Right, that's-
cemented
As
walls.
as long as we don't make
Beautiful.
it too wide. I mean, we're only talking 44 feet
Yep.
between that and the house. So I'm trying to make the wall as tight as I can so that I can still have yard on both sides.
So if you
It's kind
had,
of a blended
if
in-
you, yeah, if you say you had a 3-foot, vertical lift you're looking for, do it over 6 foot,
Yep,
so you're coming up 1 foot over 2.
okay.
I would think that you could landscape and maintain a slope like that, putting in some rock in placement, in good placement, and then some plant material and some mulching. And
Okay.
of course, try to get the wall to shade a little bit taller, so then your grade is not running from your house to the wall. You want flat or even slightly sloped back, have a little bit of a swale or a depression in there so that you're containing the water.
Okay.
So that's not just sheeting from the house down to the wall, over the wall, down to the next. You're really trying to create a little bit of a bowl in there.
Mhm.
So, and it doesn't have to be, even if you're 3 to 4 inch depression in the middle, you're collecting a great deal of water in there. And given the sandy soils, you'll get pretty quick percolation.
Right.
So, and then try to do the same thing as you're working in and around the stairs. Try to slope it back, because you're gonna have to cut into the hillside a bit. Try
That's
to cut
correct,
it
yep.
in so that, again, you're providing a stop or a little bit of a belly in there to hold the water.
Okay.
So, but myself, and to Carl's question too, a landscaped slope is far better than trying to just put a structured wall in there. That's really what we're trying to stay away from.
So we have an erosion control barrier that's stepped. That's not a wall.
So, basically a landscape slope that
Yeah.
allows them to cut in, regrade, which the vegetation is pretty much void at that spot now anyways.
Right.
Those flowers look beautiful in there, Chris.
Yeah, that was nice.
Those flowers will look beautiful in there. They really will.
Miss my plants.
The
There's
shrub
nothing
geraniums.
there.
And it's going to be very limited also to the amount, for the equipment that I can bring in there. I
Yep.
mean, you're talking maybe a small Bobcat to be able to fit beside my house, to be able to get in the back there. So I'm not talking heavy machinery coming in here building this stuff either, so.
Okay, yeah, so I would have no problem with the landscape slope as you've described here, as opposed to a structured wall in that area.
I think, to me, everything else on the plan looks great. I think it's gonna end up being really nice looking and certainly more usable and more, and better for the lake.
Yep, yeah, definitely cut down on the erosion and everything that you have running down into the lake now. And you had mentioned something about a fire pit, which I don't see on the diagram.
Between the rock wall and the deck, existing deck,
Yep.
to see if we could put something small there so we could sit on the deck. Because of its proximity to the house and the westerly breeze,
Yep.
I have to keep the fire pit as far away as I can from the house.
And it's just gonna be an open pit? So it's
Yes.
just gonna, you're just gonna get like a circle pack?
Yep,
an
a circle
ideal
pack around, yep.
Yeah, personally, myself, given there's no plant material in there, and you're not looking to extend the deck or extend a patio in that area,
No,
you're just putting a
not
fire
the,
pit.
no,
And it's just gonna
the
have
deck is
steel-
existing
steel
and that's the way it's
firewall
gonna
and
stay.
The
Yep.
sand and stone, and so it's still gonna percolate down.
Yes.
Yeah, myself, I don't have an issue with that. So the deck's remaining, the stairs are remaining. We're gonna do the landscape slope, basically along the line that you have it demarcated now. The walkway is gonna stay in the same spot? You're just gonna
Same
replace the
spot, yes.
material a
Yeah,
little bit?
we're gonna repair all that because it's, again, it's eroding and the blocks are tilting down and
So
coming apart.
basically resetting the block that you've
Yes.
got there, okay. And the patio that's shown here in the house, that's all existing?
that's all existing, correct.
It's all existing?
Yep.
Okay.
You know, topsoil and grass, both surfaces, or just the higher?
I'm hoping to do both surfaces, yeah, yep.
Okay.
Grass would be a big improvement over what's there right now.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt. When are you looking to do it, Jeff?
I'm hoping this fall if I can get the,
Okay.
which would be better for growing grass.
Yep, yeah, try to get it in there before the end of September.
Yes.
The only thing that we would need is some erosion protection, and we should probably do it in stages. You know, there should be some along the top of the water's edge, where you're gonna be working this first zone, and then you should probably have a separate line as you're working on the landscape slope.
Okay,
And I would imagine that's where you're gonna start, the landscape slope and the grading, right in
Yes.
that area, so.
okay,
Get some erosion protection wattles, and honestly, given the slope and everything going on, I would probably recommend wattles staked with silk fence.
Waddles, Whistle, okay.
Yeah, because you do have a really good risk of erosion. If we do get a good downpour, like we've gotten a few recently.
Right,
So,
right.
and if you've got
Yep.
that opened up and Mother Nature just starts dumping, you want to have as much protection as possible, because it's 20 feet and you're into the lake.
And I'm into, yes.
That would be my recommendation.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I would ask that we get a revised plan that shows the erosion protection, and specifies, the 3-foot tall by 6-foot, wide landscapes, what do we call it? Landscape slope.
Landscape slope, yeah.
Yep,
And also, I think we want to take out the word level, because you're still going to have some pitch to this.
Yeah, and actually should be pitching back a little bit.
Yeah. Just for clarity, because, we don't want to come in and have this thing be an 8-foot wall and have 2 completely flat sections.
okay,
And I think I would still be okay with moving forward with tonight. I just don't think we'd sign it until we get the finalized plan.
Yeah, if you're
And
gonna-
also, showing where you're going to relocate the blueberry bushes. I'm actually kind of marking it all up here, so I can give you this afterwards, or we can scan it and send you it.
okay, sure.
But just a couple minor changes.
If they're gonna do that, they should probably put the fire pit on it as
Oh,
well,
yeah.
on the revised plan.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Luck?
no, go ahead.
I was just going to add that I'd be open to voting on this tonight, provided they could get us the plan prior to signature at the next meeting.
Good job.
Yeah, I would agree.
Great.
A plan of my drawing or a plan from, like,
Basically.
An updated sketch.
Basically,
update of that?
sketch.
Okay.
Yep.
All
The
right,
only other thing, if you can put on it, north,
Sure.
and sign and date,
okay,
just so we can have something to add to the file that we can point to and say, this plan from this date, signed.
okay,
Just
sure.
something we can go back on, for sure.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
Just
Mr.
to
Luck.
clarify, and I apologize if I missed it when I was looking at something else, but along the shore, are we saying that there's nothing going to be done along the shore?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the
So-
only thing I had described was, there's a little bit of a well at the end of the stairs.
Right, yeah, I remember the stair
Try to
discussion.
Clean that up to try to protect the erosion.
So do we need to amend the request? Because the request says that they're going to
Says that we're going to put some.
add
black
large,
rock.
flat stones to the shore to shore up the shore and around under the dock. So is that no longer,
If there's any flat rocks or rocks that come up to that, we could put them against the banking there to hold some of the rocks that are already there.
yeah, I just want to make sure that what we approve is what you want to do, because I hear we're not going to do anything to shore, but in the write-up, it says we are.
Well, they did mention that they wanted to place some stones earlier in the meeting, just to prevent erosion along certain areas of the shoreline.
So you're going to continue with the maintenance of the banking as it exists?
That's correct.
You're not going to add
No,
stones
just
that don't go with the
Something
banking?
flat that'll hold, and hold the soil.
Yep.
With new vegetation, hopefully in between there too.
Yeah, and generally, something about that size, because as they fit in, you're left with nooks and crannies, and then you have plants that will start to grow up between the cracks. And unfortunately, it's just the nature of the beast. Every couple of years, you gotta go out there and toss a few more rocks back up.
Right.
As they do get knocked down, but that's just, some maintenance that needs to be done in the banking, so.
Okay,
Yeah, so as long as it's rocks that are in character with what's there.
yes.
Yeah, we don't want all of a sudden have a 3x4 flat rock that all of a sudden becomes stairs going up, and, really, because it's
No, there's too
well
much.
vegetated now, so.
That's why they had to put the stairs in. There's too much of a slope right there to get from the lake up into there, so that all the bushes that are there are gonna stay there. And there's trees that are there that are gonna stay right there on the,
Yeah,
on
because
the
it
water's
is pretty
edge.
well vegetated along the shoreline. It's
Yes.
just that from the shoreline zone to the house zone, there's not much there.
Yep.
Mr. Bingham, for clarification, the commission, right at the water's edge, at the edge of the yard, would you say that's a 2 to 3 foot drop from the edge of the yard down to it drops down to the
For the
shore?
high water, yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yep, at least that, yep.
And would you be tempted to backfill that at all, Jeff?
What's that?
Would you be tempted to backfill that
Just-
No, leave that
with
drop.
stone?
Just leave the drop and put some
Put-
erosion
yeah.
protection there.
Yeah, place some stones to help keep it from eroding anymore.
No, and just let it grow
Because
back
it looks
in.
great there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they had one on the other side.
And there's
this is on the
no
other side of
trees
the
or anything
deck.
that you're removing in this? I don't see any in the plan, but that's
that's
fine.
the
I don't have an issue with it, but you're not cutting down any big trees or anything?
No,
Just that-
no,
that's
the
the
trees
area
are already there,
Stairs, so it's just spot right
between the stairs and the existing deck. There are trees there already that are staying.
Yep, yeah, you can see where it's just eroding it underneath. And the only other thing I might add, depending on how the construction goes when you're re-leveling, you may want to just add a level to the stairs, so that the stairs, you have to kind of step up and then down, so the water's not just running down the stairs. It sounds like that's an issue, coming down the banking, overwhelming the stairs.
Correct, yep,
And, I mean, I don't, if it's just a tie, maybe add another tie to it. So
okay,
that your grade comes down and then there's a step up, so the
Step up.
water again stays behind the.
okay,
Oh.
yeah, that's a yeah,
Let the
okay,
water in behind, so it just doesn't have free run down into the.
Yep.
Into the stairwell, so. But it sounds like you've definitely put a lot of thought into this, so. You definitely seem like you have a good direction on how to do it.
And just to clarify, if I remember correctly, the agent report, you recommended a -3 determination.
With a waiver.
Yeah, okay. I'm ready to make a motion. I think I got this all captured if you guys are ready to move forward.
You just brought up one of the, given what we've discussed, is a waiver required?
Because there's work within the 30-foot no
Yeah.
touch.
Yeah, because at
Okay.
the 30-foot, there's no disturbance, so.
Even though it's, consists of planting and
Yep, okay.
And, yeah, for the fire pit, because that's within 30 feet. So it would be a waiver for that, and then the work
The waiver
within the
would-
30.
the waiver would be granted because the applicant
Mhm.
was able to show that by doing the work, they were still maintaining the spirit of the bylaw.
All right.
All right, any other questions from commissioners?
No.
Any questions on 150 Peninsula Drive from the public? Yes, Ms. Bertram, the microphone at that end. I believe it works.
Paula Bertram, 312 Townsend Harbor Road, and I want to speak in favor of the proposal. I think what the Binghams are proposing is in the best interest of the lake. I'm also the chair of the Lake Management Group, and one of the biggest issues that we have is sedimentation and stormwater runoff. So this will certainly improve that situation. I do have a question, however. You talked about a vegetative slope, and I just would like to understand what it is that the commission is looking for versus what was proposed.
Let me just find a picture of it quick, Paula.
I could see a little bit from behind you, and it looked like there are still rocks and then soil behind.
Pass that over. Yeah, so basically, they've created a slope between the two levels.
Okay.
And it's vegetated, and the rocks honestly are probably a little more for landscape purposes than for adding structure to the banking itself.
Okay. So they do have permission from the commission to do something similar to this, which would potentially use stone to hold the soil into place to allow the plantings?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
I just
without
wanted to
having
understand
a
that.
standard structured wall.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's more of a staggered, natural, much less steep
Basically, it's just a
wall.
landscape, it's gonna be a sloped area, and then they're using some stones and plantings in the sloped area.
Yeah,
The stones themselves wouldn't, a single stone's not gonna provide stability for holding the soil back. That just comes in the slope of the soil, the slope of the grade and the plantings in there, as opposed to just having a wall and having all the soil behind it.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
So there's no continuous line.
well, and we have a 2-to-1 ratio, so it's going to be 3 feet tall by
6 feet wide.
by 6 feet wide. That's one of the things we specified. So it'll be, you can have like a foot tall rock, and then you'd kind of break it up, like you see on that picture.
Okay, thank you.
But, yeah, there's no structure to the way the rocks are placed.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, any other questions from the public? Seeing none, we'll accept a motion for a negative determination for 150 Peninsula Drive with the stipulations that we have created.
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we issue a -3 determination with the waiver of the work in the, buffer zones. And I'll scan this plan in, and we can have the agent send it to you, but I think what we talked about is we want to make sure we put erosion control for the first step right at the edge of the water when you guys are doing the work down here. And then erosion control probably halfway between the water and where you're going to put that step surface, so about 10 feet off. We're proposing wattles that are staked in the ground. We are giving you permission to place stones in the existing erosion break. You can relocate these blueberry bushes that are by the deck. You can add the fire pit behind the deck. Remove the word level, because there is still going to be some pitch to this. Definitely want to make sure you specify that the landscape slope, you're going to put a landscape slope instead of a wall, and it'll be 3 feet tall by 6 feet wide. What else we got here? Oh, please add which way north is, and then sign and date the plan once you revise it.
And
Think
silt
it.
fence.
And where are we putting the silt fence?
Wattle stake with silt
Yeah.
fence.
Yeah,
Oh,
wattle
wattles.
stake with silt fence. Basically, at the work, just below where the wall work is gonna be.
And Tom, if I could amend yours slightly, we agreed to allow them to add a stair as well.
Okay. Yeah. And
The pitch, we're looking at a swale pitch on that first level by the house that would actually come off the wall, dip in, and the water coming off the house would essentially sit in that first level area.
Both levels.
Both
levels would have a
so
bit of
we'd
a,
add swale.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they wouldn't be leveled areas, they would be pitched back a bit to,
Yeah, the majority of the roof line goes towards the street side of the
Looked like it
house.
was a-
It's a flat roof.
going back.
Going back, so.
So we got, and also we got the rain gardens by the gutters.
Yes.
I apologize, I don't know how to spell swale, not gonna lie. I thought, but I wasn't positive. Could have been an I, could have been an E. I'm an engineer, I don't do spelling. All right.
all right, you wanna read that back to us, Matt? So we know we've got it?
Okay. Essentially, Commissioner Bertram, motion for a -3 determination with the waiver granted based on previous discussion, and that there would be erosion control both at the water and then halfway between the water and the wall, with all plan updates previously discussed, because I have those written in the minutes. That included adding the fire pit, the north tower, removing the word level. I have that Commissioner Rabbit amended the motion to allow a step to be placed and a swell at both levels. And that Commissioner Bertram also noted in the motion that there are also to be rain gardens placed at the base of the gutters.
Okay.
Did we get the pitch? Did I hear the pitch?
And the slope is a 2-to-1 slope?
Yeah.
For the landscape banking.
And I'll give this, I've got it all marked on here, so I'll give this to the agent so he can scan it in.
Yep. And we'll approve it conditionally tonight. We'll attempt to approve it conditionally tonight based on presentation of the plan update.
Okay.
Yep. Then we can sign our order next week.
And just to clarify for the applicants, I don't think you'd have to come back in as long as we don't see anything wrong with the plan.
Yep.
So I believe that in the past cases, we've kind of let the agent just take a quick look at it and before the meeting, and then we'll sign it at the next meeting if he doesn't.
Well, I mean,
find
I'm going to
anything
scan and send this to them, so what they send back, I'm going to compare to what you have
wrong.
here.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I would second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and we have a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. We'll let you
Okay.
get to work on the updated plan.
Thanks.
and-
Now I get to work.
Super. Because you've got nothing else to do.
Yeah, nothing else to do.
Thank you,
All right, have a great evening.
By the way, the house looks great.
Oh, thanks, you'll have to stop by. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
All right, we'll call our second hearing to order pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, as amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protections and Municipal Bylaws, a public meeting on a request for determination of applicability by Robert Proctor for work at 83 West Street will be held. Work entails the placement of a sewer service within 100-foot buffer zone of a wetland resource area. And is somebody here for 83 West Street?
Matt can clarify too.
All right.
I mean, I can explain the issue. Basically, it was a retroactive filing because Mr. Proctor placed a sewer service in the buffer zone without filing the RDA. The wetland actually is across the street from the residence. The resident there was also doing some landscaping in the front by basically replanting grass. There is some more work that the resident wants to do, which is basically bark mulching the bottom front and going up to the right-hand side of the driveway. The resident, when I spoke with her on the phone this morning, stated that she had stopped everything until the commission had made a decision.
Just, Mr. Chair, before we go any further, should we not even open this hearing if there's no applicant here, or?
I would recommend opening it and continuing it.
Okay. I wasn't clear if we could continue without the applicant's approval, so that's why I just wanted to ask the question.
Was there any indication, Matt, that they were coming at all, or are they going to just be late?
I spoke to the owner this morning, and I spoke to Mr. Proctor Monday.
And the is it a small little wetland that he overlooked, or is this a good-sized wetland?
No, this is a large swamp.
A big, okay, so it's not something that was just overlooked, I mean.
No, this is a large swamp.
Okay. Yeah, at this point, I think I would accept a motion to continue this until our next hearing, which is, what, September 6th?
September 7th.
September 7th.
So moved.
I guess what's wrong again here, how do we continue something if the laws are stating that we can't continue?
The law also states that in order for the commission to a ruling, the applicant must appear on a request for determination.
Okay, as long as the applicants.
So ministerially, you can reset the meeting because the applicant didn't actually meet the full requirement of the law by appearing.
Okay,
Either that or they have to re-advertise it all.
right.
Do we want to take and reschedule a hearing, or are we going to open it and continue?
Open it, I would recommend opening and continuing. And just let them know.
You can open and continue that way.
Yep.
Thank you.
And you can do it either way. Either way is fine. No harm, no foul either way.
Well, at this point, it's been properly advertised, and if we don't open it, they have to re-advertise it all, so.
I would just say that, you know, based on what's in the application, I don't see anything other than it talks about the sewer, pipe, and lawn.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that that's all that they're asking for. They're not asking for anything else, because you said the homeowner somehow was involved. I thought, you know, it says just Bob Proctor's applying, and
I think he was the applicant that
The
did the
applicant,
work,
yeah.
right, so.
Bob Proctor is the contractor that did the work who applied on behalf of the homeowner. But both of them are involved because I've spoken with both of them.
Now, was Bob after the fact?
This is an after the fact, yes.
I mean, did
Yeah.
Bob perform the work?
Yes, the commissioner had brought it forth that there was no permit for the work that was done on the
Well,
site.
I believe we have a motion to continue the hearing
Yep.
right now.
So we have a motion, we have a second?
A second.
We have a motion and a second, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Who seconded?
Ken? Oh, Carl. Ken made it, Carl second. And if if you can contact Bob and have him come to the December 7th. All right, we'll open up our next hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, as amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaws. A public hearing on a request for determination of applicability by Arthur Ducharme for work at 44 Brookview Terrace will be held. Work entails replacement of septic system, removal of a shed, and some tree removal within 100-foot buffer zone of the wetland resource area.
Good evening. Jonathan Markey, I'm the civil engineer representing the applicant, Arthur Ducharme. We have an existing three-bedroom dwelling with a failed septic system for which we did, oh, okay, sorry.
Can I have that file back? No, that file. Yeah, that file, thank you.
So it's an existing three-bedroom dwelling with a failed septic system. We are proposing a new replacement septic system, not to increase the flow. The bedroom count will remain the same. We're not increasing the square footage of the house. Currently, the septic system is in the general location of where the proposed septic system is. It does run underneath the existing shed a little bit, but it's basically in groundwater and it's in failure. So we are proposing to bring that into maximum feasible compliance for the site, which includes the installation of a retaining wall, constructing the new system, installing a new tank. The wall will be 4 feet at its highest point, which is located right here, which is in the existing driveway. In order to construct the system and the wall, the shed will be removed and not put back up. It's to be removed. This work does entail the removal of a small number of trees, 2 of which are located within the 100-foot buffer zone of the edge of water. They're located right here, shown in red.
And just so I can clarify when we're looking at the plan, is that the 100-foot buffer, that highlighted green line right there?
There were 2 100-foot buffers. So on the right-hand side of the screen, you can't see the shoreline because it occurs off the plan. And if you look up to the upper portion of the plan, right here,
okay,
that's existing water also.
Okay.
So there are 2 kind of 100-foot buffer zones shown. A good question would be, why can't I locate the septic system in this area? And if you look, there is a test hole that we performed in that area. There was fill, stumps, other common construction debris to 7 feet deep, which is in the water table. So removal of all of that debris would entail we're actually removing water. We'd have to dewater the site. It was agreed upon with Jim Gariffi, who is the agent for the Neshoba Board of Health, who is the agent for Lunenburg. We agreed that that is not a suitable area to put the septic
If I
system.
could,
Yep.
and I don't mean to interrupt, if I could interrupt you for just
Sure.
a second. If you guys had read through my report, you would note that I noted in the report that the Board of Health has approved the system, as shown on the plans. I checked that with Andrea today and reviewed the file. So there is an approval already issued for this.
And it looks like that wall comes, what, maybe 75, 80 feet? Was it close to the wetland?
Yes.
I'm guessing on scale?
Yes,
Approximately.
75.
So you're well outside the 50-foot no structure zone.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I don't see any issue with the proposed plan.
I thought it was very, considering what he was up against, I thought it was very thoughtfully
I
placed.
think it looks good, yeah.
Todd and I visited the site last Saturday, and I think we both thought there was no problem with the proposal.
So it looks like from the grades, the house is the peak, and then it slopes back down to the water that we can't see the grades at, correct?
Correct. The house is at the high point.
All right, so even though the wall is within the 100-foot buffer, there's still more grade going up before it drops down to the water, so the chances of erosion from that construction there down to the water are pretty minimal.
It's actually impossible. So
Yeah,
the...
It looks like the grade's at about 103,
Right.
and the top of the wall's 102.
Right, so this is a low point,
Mhm.
and this is a low point.
Yep.
And the driveway is a saddle.
Mhm.
So this driveway comes in, you saw this driveway. There's a driveway here that's about 3 to 4 feet above grade.
Yep.
So that creates this low point here.
Okay.
So any runoff from anywhere is going to collect in this area and in this area. So it actually won't even leave the site.
Okay.
It's physically impossible.
Yeah, just look, I just wanted to make sure I was reading the grades right, and that's the way it looked. It definitely looked like everything was contained right in the area.
Yeah, which is, that's the reason why I don't have any erosion control on the plan, is it can't escape.
The tank and the line to the house are existing, or those are gonna be replaced as well?
They're existing on that side, but they have to be excavated out because I didn't want to put a pump system in.
Okay.
So they're actually going to raise the plumbing inside the building. So it will be a new sewer line.
Okay, so the construction will be in front of in the 100-foot, but in front of the house?
Yes.
Okay. And time frame on when this is looking to happen?
They're looking to do it very quickly. As you saw, there's a dumpster out on site. They're cleaning out the premises. They'd like to get going on it immediately, get it done before the fall.
Okay. And Matt did go out to the site and had a recommendation. Arthur Duchamp has filed a request for determination for the replacement of a septic system at his home, 44 Brookview Terrace. I am basing my determination on both site visit and a plan entitled Subsurface Sewage Disposal Design Site Plan. I would note for the Commission's information, the Board of Health has approved this plan. A portion of the septic system and the grading are within the outer parts of the 100-foot buffer zone. In reviewing the Board of Health's minutes, the site and the plan itself, it appears that the system has been optimally placed to be as far away from the wetlands as possible. You will note it appears very close to the home. That was due solely to wetland concerns. In my review of the site, the wetlands, and the optimal placement, it is my opinion that that proposed system meets the requirements of the Act and the local bylaw and is very thoughtfully placed. I recommend a -3 determination be issued by the Commission, both under the Act and local bylaw. And that was Matt's recommendation?
When I examined the Board of Health minutes, it actually stated in the minutes that part of the reason for the placement of where the system is was, you had stated it was due to wetland concerns.
Yes.
And I could see that when I looked at the plans on the site, so.
All right, any other questions from the Commission?
No.
Any questions from the public on 44 Brookview Terrace? All right, seeing none, I'll accept a motion for a -3 determination.
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, or any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All set.
Great, have a good night.
Very much,
Thank
you
you.
too. All right, moving forward, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public meeting on a request for determination of applicability by Reservoir Road LLC for work at 667 and 675 Reservoir Road be held. Work entails raising an existing structure, grading, and some tree removal within the 100-foot buffer zone of a wetland resource area. Good evening. And anybody get it? Did you guys do that on Saturday? Went to the site as well? Okay. Matt, did you want to just give us an update? I know you've been out there.
I mean, this
and there's some-
area, essentially, I did review it with Mr. Gogan and Mr. Hannigan this morning. Reviewed the wetland delineation, which was fine. Reviewed the work in progress. The work in the back where you have exposed areas was from the former homeowner cleaning, a lot of detritus out. However, there was work within the 50, 30, and tree cutting that was done in violation by Mr. Gogan, so I had recommended and talked to him about a fine. So my recommendation, based on the fining structure, was for a $600 fine, based on 2 counts.
And I believe this work continued even after verbal note from you.
That is correct. I mean, in speaking to both Mr. Hannigan and Mr. Gogan this morning, that they're essentially trying to clean that site up because it was a mess. And Mr. Gogan said that when he heard 30-foot, it was like, okay, between the 130 you could cut, but you can't touch within 30. But that's not what I had told him, and not what Mr. Hannigan had tried to relate. So, I mean, that's really it. It's that simple. And, you know, I know Mr. Gogan will actually, I mean, you know, he admitted he screwed up, and they are going to come back with a notice of intent. So my recommendation, based on my talk with Mr. Hannigan, Mr. Hannigan assured me he's going to be coming back with a notice of intent. He needs the determination so he can do some work that's right on the edge of the buffer zone, where he's going to have to do some grading, which is, if you're looking at the house, it's on the left-hand side where you walk to that part of the beach area. He's going to have to take part of that hill down so he can do some testing. And then he's going to come back in with a full notice of intent, complete with planting, complete with a proposal for a single-family house. Mr. Gogan has a building permit application in for demolition of the existing house. He's, you know, not going to do anything until the commission allows it. So my recommendation is for the implementation of the fine and to allow the negative determination to happen so he can continue with his testing, and Mr. Hannigan is going to submit the notice of intent. Now, the reason why I say that is because the work that he's actually proposing under the RDA fits what we've given previously historically for negative, but also the fact that there is a full-blown NOI on the way, and that the RDA is simply for evaluation purposes.
What's the work that's being done right now that you're recommending be done under the,
Well, the tree
RDA?
clearing that's already happened, the tree
Okay.
cutting that's already happened, and some site grading so that Mr. Hannigan can do some testing, soils testing. And then he's going to follow that up with a notice of intent for construction work for a single-family home. Now, my experiences in dealing with Bill Hannigan, when Bill Hannigan tells me he's going to do something, he follows through.
So
That's why I would make that recommendation.
do we have a plan or anything? So the tree cutting and the site grading would be done under the RDA, and then they would come back with
The
an...
tree cutting's already done. It would be a
Okay.
retroactive approval.
Yeah, retroactive approval.
It all happened at the same time. He filed and he cut at the same time. And that was where the mix-up happened. But here is,
And did the applicant file for just the tree cutting and the grading, or was it for the building of a house?
no, there's no building on the house under this proposal.
So
They're going
He's
to raise
coming
that
through with
house.
a notice of
It's an
intent.
existing structure.
They'll be coming back with a notice of intent for doing construction work for developing the lot. Right now, this is for the remainder of the site cleanup. There's a lot of junk that was there that's being cleaned out. Got my notes all over here.
Where on the plan are they doing the testing that they have to do construction, or do grading? And it must be somewhere down in here.
Myself with this. It would be in here.
So I'm sorry, what's the intent of the property right now? It's to develop it?
I believe you're looking to put two houses back, one house back?
Yeah, one home here.
An order of conditions exists for the construction of number 667 Reservoir,
So
which is
is-
going to be the second lot.
So is this house here right now?
Which is lot two.
Yes, that's
that's
the former Camp David.
Yes, that's the
Okay.
parking area. Yep.
That's the old house up on the hill. Now, what's proposed here is site preparation work for 675, which is what you have in front of you under the RDA. The house sits on the small hill on the property. The house itself that's there now basically doesn't meet any codes. It's going to be demolished. The grade of the hill on this
Over here, right? This is where Todd pointed out.
Reservoir Road.
Reservoir's here.
Okay, so that would be the side. This grade right here.
Right, well, all around here.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, when I talked to Bill, it was this area right here.
But that's outside the 100-foot.
Mr. Chairman, we...
That's correct. That's correct. The grade of the hill will be lowered to provide a more suitable area for construction of the new house. This would include the required soil testing.
Okay.
Soil testing is technically exempt under state law anyway. He may have to go into the outer parts of the buffer zone. Once the grade is lowered, it would be more reasonable to perform soil testing for the proposed septic system on this lot. Upon completion of that work, the full NOI will be filed for proposed construction on the house.
So on this plan, where was the violation taking place on this plan?
Over here. Right where it's sloped down a little bit.
Here and here.
So that's outside the 50, but inside the 100?
No, it's partially inside the 50, but that's with the cutting, not with any structures.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think the problem I'm having, and there's a lot of pointing down there, which I can't even see, but no, I don't really understand where the work is going to be done. We're talking about grading to a level condition?
The grading and the level condition would be outside of the buffer zone.
So it should be indicated on the plan, so we know what we're talking about, because that house is inside the buffer zone, right?
I agree with Carl. I mean, at this point, we have a plan that doesn't show any of the work that's been done or that's going to be done, or at least it hasn't been described in that manner. So I wouldn't be okay with giving a negative determination or a positive determination. I either want to continue it or what if an RDA would give an automatic positive determination if we didn't have enough information. So in that case, I would almost recommend to the applicant that, you know, he updates his plan, shows what was done, how he's going to remediate, and do it all under the NOI, since he's coming back for an NOI anyways. And in this case, the applicant's here. I don't feel strongly about fining people. In the past, we've fined just to kind of get people's attention, and that's the point of the fine. I mean, the applicant's here. I think it looks like he's willing to work with us.
Matt's feeling for the fine was, he had asked and was basically told no, and the action still took place anyways.
Well, the trees were already down, and then they cleaned them up after I talked to them, because I talked to them about putting the hay bales up, because the tenant still lives in the building, and they have boats out there, and they've been driving around. I told them, I go, you can't go in that 30-foot buffer. So I came to talk to him to put this in, and then when we were talking, he's like, you can't cut within 100. And I was like, oh, no. The trees were already down. They were cleaning up the next day.
Yeah, because he had
So we stopped. There's still trees that need to be taken down.
as well, and the work still took place.
Essentially what happened was I told him not to do it, the engineer told him he couldn't do it, and it was done.
Right.
Right.
Mr. Abbott?
Matt, just a question. When you were, take it away. Okay. Did we provide him with any kind of a written document that clearly specified what the problem was and what the expectation was? Or was it, I understand it was verbally communicated, but in the past, if we find somebody, we've also provided a document, and, you know, we've sent something out with
He
that.
came into me with a plan that showed the buffer zone clearly, everything was demarcated. I said, you see this line here? You cannot do any alteration or vegetation removal from this line back.
Okay.
If you need to demolish the house, it's outside of the buffer zone, we have no jurisdiction. That was clearly spelled out. When I went back and examined the area that I told him and pointed on his plan that's here, that he could not work in, was worked in.
Yeah.
I called Mr. Hannigan, who then promptly filed the RDA as soon as I brought it to his attention there was the violation. But at the same time I was speaking on this, I had Mr. Hannigan on the phone to go over this, because I wasn't sure what was going on. And Mr. Hannigan also explained to him that he could not work in that area. And then the area was still worked in.
And it was still, even after?
That's correct.
Told twice.
Which is why I did the fine schedule on here. My take on this is that the one thing this commission has stressed to me is that it is weary of having the old, I'm going to ask forgiveness instead of permission.
Exactly right.
This is a case where I wrote this ticket out and spoke to Mr. Gogan about it because we have to start actually going through these in order to send the message out there.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why we fined Danny Gardner $11,000 to date. And in this case, the $600 is appropriate. It's not excessive, it's not too little.
No, I'm willing to pay that. I screwed up. I'm willing to pay.
Okay.
Would anyone in the commission be open to, in lieu of a fine, some sort of mitigation of an equivalent value, stabilization of the bank around the property, because there is a lot of areas there where maybe they could do plantings of blueberries, something like that. They could do a lot of work or get a lot of vegetation for that amount of money.
Well, I mean, I could, we could, all right, if we're gonna have like discussion on that, under this determination, and you don't want the determination to move forward, because you want extra detail on the plan, was what you're telling me?
I'm not sure what extra details we need, though.
If I could get the extra detail.
Let's back up for a second. Let's take the fine first. Any work or remediation can so be ordered under the NOI regardless of the fine or not. I think we should take that first, and then we can discuss the lack of detail in the RDA and how we want to proceed, because it does sound like some work needs to take place on the property for them to produce the NOI. So, and it does sound, according, at least with Matt's recommendation, that an RDA is needed for the level of work that's needed to produce the NOI.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr.
I'd
Pease.
like the plan to be put in the middle of the table where all the commissioners can see it, and for Matt to show us where these violations occurred. To be honest, Todd and I went down and looked at it on Saturday, and we missed these violations, at least I did. So this was a surprise to me that we were then asked to find the applicant. So.
It's one of these cases, I wish I had one of those. All right, let me come around. Pardon me for my back being you guys, sorry. You have Reservoir Road, you have a dirt area going into the house right here that everybody accesses. There's a culvert right here, you have the existing BVW that goes around to Easterbrook on the other side. So what you have here is you have the driveway, the existing house, which sits on top of the hill. Here is
outside of the buffer zone.
Here is the 50-foot buffer zone, or the 50-foot zone here. Right here is the 100-foot buffer zone. Now, he included this area that's out of the buffer zone in his filing just because he wanted to be honest about what he was going to do. The areas that were worked on in the back here were from the former owners cleaning material out, and even though it was technically in violation, it was out of Mr. Gogan's control on that point, but still, he controls the fate of the property, so there is work here. Within the 100-foot buffer zone, where I told him there were no trees to be cleared out, he cleaned out the trees here, okay? So hence, we've got violations in the back and in the front. The determination is to retroactively approve the cleanup work that was done here, and even though he included this, it's not really jurisdictional, because it's not in the buffer zone. So my recommendation for the negative was to allow him to finish the cleanup work out in here, which is basically hand-removing detritus. It's a lot of junk material that's in here. He's agreed to pay the fine, and then we would give him the fine in the negative so they could finish this. Mr. Hannigan would do his testing, in this area over here. And that would be followed up with the demolition, the proposal for the demolition of the house and the notice of intent for a new construction. Because this house right here is the old Camp David, it's totally out of code, it's not happening.
Matt, one of my concerns with the plan, though, is just that it doesn't show the areas where there's being any work. I mean, it shows, he's got erosion protection on here, he shows the buffer zones, which is awesome. But typically, you see the new grading with solid lines, if there's going to be significant grading. And also, you'll see, some areas, trees are being cut here, approximately how many trees are being cut. I don't know how we issue a negative determination or any determination if we don't know what trees were cut, what the extent of the grading is, any of that detail.
Well, I mean, there's really, the grading is outside of the buffer zone, so it's non-jurisdictional.
Okay.
The trees that were cut are already cut.
Excuse me, Matt, just on that point, though, if the grading's outside of the buffer zone, why is he requesting?
He put it in as a courtesy so that we would know what was going on.
Well, then we should pull it out, because I don't want anybody to be confused that we're approving grading in the buffer zone.
That's fine. Works for me. I have no issue with that at all.
So if there's no grading in the buffer zone, and there's no tree removal in the buffer zone.
Are you saying in the 100-foot or the 30?
100-foot.
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 Well, there is some tree removal and grading.
That's hence the reason for the fine.
No.
Because
In the future or in the past?
There's gonna be some grading in the future on the right side.
Yes, when he does the house.
No.
What do
I don't
we?
think he's saying that.
Yeah, that's what we don't have a plan that shows what is being requested tonight.
Okay.
The 100 is almost up next to the house. I think that there is some grading on that right side of the house.
So,
Right, when you're going to build, but when I walked the site,
I
it
get what
was
you're saying. I
this
think that's
over
gonna
here.
come with the NOI.
You've provided the existing conditions plan. Do you have a proposed conditions plan at this time?
Well, we need to take the house out, level where the house is now, and then we can do our soil testing for the septic system.
Because you don't know what the
And that's gonna be on the
That's
NOI.
That's why it's waiting.
That's on the
But can
NOI.
can you level where the house is now without touching the 100-foot buffer zone?
The 100-foot buffer zone is, it's almost, I think, like 10 feet away from the house.
Talking
That's
about-
why I asked the question, because I don't think you can level without touching the 100-foot buffer.
There's gonna be, it's only 10 feet away.
So we need to know exactly where you plan to level, because it's a very treed area. So we need to know where you're going to do
Not
work.
very treed anymore.
What is?
Not in the
it is-
front here.
No,
On this side
on
here,
the lake
here
side,
over
it's
by the-
still very treed. There's
Yeah,
a-
but that's over by the wetland.
That's the other wetland, yeah.
Right.
But it's the 100-foot buffer from the other wetland. So we need to know exactly where work will happen, and clearly if you're grading, the trees are going to be gone, so that.
Right, we gotta take, it's
Yeah,
gonna be
so
within-
it's a lot of work, you're asking for a lot of work under an RDA, I think.
Yeah, well, you know what? I mean, point taken, and that's absolutely fine if that's what you guys want to do. But I got to be honest, I'm still recommending the implementation of the fine.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think
Oh, yeah, we keep going away from that, sorry.
Being that, number one, they went ahead without communicating with us, and after they were communicating to, the work continued, versus forcing our clarity. And, you know, and Ms. Berger, I appreciate the fact that you acknowledged that, yeah, there was a mistake made, and I think that should count for a little bit, but at the same time, I clearly believe we should initiate a fine, as this is clearly a violation of town bylaws.
Well, Commissioner, that was the reason why I didn't go over 600, was because he basically admitted he screwed up.
Okay.
all right. I mean, personally, I'm not as concerned about the fine right now, is just figuring out what the
Yeah,
applicant's
what are you doing
requesting.
long-term?
So could I ask that maybe you could come over here and you could explain what you want to do under, right now, just for the.
Fine straightened out first.
Okay.
Do we have a motion to impose the fine as Matt's recommended?
I move we impose the fine as recommended by our agent.
Motion, do we have a second?
I personally would like to see
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion on the fine?
discussion on the fine. Before I'm willing to implement a fine, I want to know what the work that's he's planning on doing. I think the fine would come after everything else, so at this point, I'm not in favor of the
Well,
fine.
I think the fine is in place because of work that was done after he was specifically told twice not to do the work. So I don't think any future work would have a bearing on the fine itself. But we have a motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion on the fine?
No.
All those in favor of implementing the fine, say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
All right.
Aye.
So
Okay.
Todd,
So.
Todd and Tom, no? Bob, Ken, Carl, Jack, and myself, yay. Okay, so we have that out of the way.
Okay.
So for the RDA, at what point did the engineer imply that he would have an NOI before us?
You're talking about a timeline?
Yes. What work needs to be done between now and when he's planning to file the NOI?
Well, the only thing he would need to do, he would need to do the site grading, and that would be it, so he could do his perk testing.
But I also
That's
heard
it.
that he needs to tear the house down before he does any site grading, correct?
But that's
Correct.
outside the 100.
No, that's not what he told me. See, that's not what he told me this morning. Now I'm getting conflicting stories. So, you know, I would,
Well, the house sits on the hill, so we're gonna have to move the house to grade the hill.
what he told me this morning was you wouldn't need to go in that far and the house could remain. So now that I'm hearing conflicting stories,
We could, we have to probably rip out the driveway though, because it's gonna be,
But again, the driveway's still outside of the 100-foot.
yeah.
So if you just come here for a quick second,
You can come stand right here in the middle if you want.
anything that you can see my hand is not covering is work that you can do today without a permit. So if you needed to take that house away, that's outside our jurisdiction. This hillside here in the driveway, that's outside our jurisdiction.
Right, it's the grading in here.
Now, does that need to be done prior to?
He had the ripping out the stairs too in the RDA, right?
should know, he didn't put any of that in the RDA.
Oh, he did, okay.
He just said,
Well, part of it will go with the grade.
well, no, that's not what he outlined this morning when we walked. He only outlined a small section where he needed to take the hillside down in order to do the testing.
Mm-hmm. But that would, again, be outside of the 100-foot.
Yes.
Honestly, myself, I do mirror what Tom was saying without any information on the plan on what work is needed to be done. I think we should, at this point, either continue or just find a positive determination and await for any work to be done inside the buffer zone until an NOI has been presented and approved. As long as, I mean, if they're indicating to you that they need to be working in here, that's outside our jurisdiction to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And until such time as they have the plans in place, I don't think they really know exactly what they're doing with everything else.
But we wanted to take this hill down.
Yep, but, I mean, that, you're gonna do that.
But I think some stuff might roll into that 100-foot.
Yeah, well, my concern is that, you say you want to take this hill down. This is very steep if you look at the grade, and once you get into the 100. So once you start digging into here, I mean, I can see this creeping pretty easily. So without having a plan where we can put a limit of work on that grading.
Agreed, yeah, without seeing a proposed plan of what the work's gonna take.
And I want to see what the new grade's going to be, because I want to see how much you're changing that slope.
And honestly, Bill knows what is needed to file an NOI.
Well, those, so typically what happens is you see the existing and the dashed, and all the new would be a solid line.
That's based on what Bill told me this morning.
Based on what Bill told you.
Based on the sidewalk this morning. But I'm getting conflicting stories now. I think I'm leaning now towards essentially what Mr. Bertram and you were talking about, that we should continue the determination and have those areas outlined.
Yep, I definitely, either positive determination or continue it until such time as we have
I'd
the
rather
information.
continue it because I want to know what he needs pre-testing.
Yep.
Because there are provisions for testing that are exempt.
Yeah, and they already paid to file, so that way, at the next meeting, we could approve it and he could finish this work. But I think right now, there's some confusion. It sounds like you're not 100% sure without talking to an engineer exactly what's going to be done in the 100-foot.
Yep. Now, one of the things you can ask your engineer is if you're gonna do a mass grading across the site after you raise the building, just to know what your working grade's gonna be. Just that piece of information can give us enough information where we can look at the plan and say, okay, if you're gonna tie into, a contour at 102, we can follow that around and understand where the grades are gonna go.
Yeah, no, this is basically just the site existing, so.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess at this point.
Can we put the erosion control in now?
I wouldn't, because we might want it to be closer to the hill. I mean, I don't know, Matt, what's your thought?
I would leave it up to the agent at this point. If they're gonna be doing their work outside the 100-foot and Matt feels that the erosion protection is needed.
In that area,
point you can order
unless
it.
they start taking the hillside down, no. If they start taking that hillside down out of the buffer zone, then not the complete erosion control, but just a small section probably would be necessary.
My concern is that the tenant still lives in the house, which I don't have control over. Just trying to keep people out of it.
Now, are you gonna evict the tenant before you raise the house? You're gonna raise the house while he's in it?
When I bought the home, the people that I bought it from, they are evicted.
Okay.
I have no control over it.
So you can't even start doing anything until the tenants are out of the
Started
house?
cleaning everything up. They were supposed to move out. We purchased it, 3 weeks ago? They were supposed to move out like a week after.
Yeah.
It's still there.
Okay. Yeah, so at this point, I wouldn't do any more work until
No, we
Matt
haven't.
Matt and your engineer have had a chance to speak to see what work needs to be done, and we have a plan showing what you're looking for permission to do. So unfortunately, it's hard to give permission, we don't know what you're asking for.
Right.
So at this point, I guess we'll, any other questions from commissioners?
Just one comment. Can we, order a stop work inside the 100-foot zone, since we know there's already a violation?
Well, I think at this point, Matt's been pretty clear in the $600 fine that he doesn't have permission to work within the 100-foot.
I think Matt, I think what he was trying to say, what he was talking about was in here to level the hill to get the NOI down, but you said we can work.
Anything here that my hand is not covering, you can work in there.
Yeah.
So we don't need.
Any of this, you can't work in, just that. Okay.
As long as you're outside of that 100-foot buffer,
Yeah,
you're
it's
good.
100 foot, as long as you're working on this side of it, you're all good to go. But
As long as you don't affect it, right?
Can't cross 100 foot, right?
You can't affect the,
Exactly, yeah, you can't have your, any of the raising of the house can't fall into the 100 foot, everything has to.
It's just, I think that's what, because it's so close.
Yep, yeah, but it sounds like you're not days away from taking the house down anyways, you're a ways away, so I don't think it's gonna,
But in order for him to get the NOI from that,
Mhm.
we gotta do some work in here.
yep, which is fine, you can do all the work you want in here.
Yeah.
I don't see that having any effect.
And we're going to continue it, so you can come back with your updated plan that shows if you need to do any of that work inside that 100-foot zone.
Well, they could just come back with the full.
Or you could
I'm reading Billy wrong, 'cause when you talked to him, he said he wants to do some work in here, in the 100 or no?
No. He said he wanted to do the work, it was on the outside of the 100. Not on the inside.
Okay, all right.
This is new to me, so I just,
Right, so I think we need to clarify that, because I'm hearing conflicting stories, or at least I was. I mean, essentially, if he comes back with an amended plan, the only thing it may show is where the trees were cut.
Yeah, and that's
Well,
fine.
we certainly want to see that anyway.
Yeah, because we want to know what trees were cut, I want to know how many
Those
trees.
areas.
If they're big trees, we want to know how many, so we can remediate properly.
But the thing is, until he does his testing, I don't think he knows exactly what he's gonna design for the NOI.
And that's why I'm recommending we continue this hearing, so we can come back with the RDA, can talk to his engineer.
Do we have any questions from the public on 667 Reservoir Road? All right, seeing none, I guess at this point, it sounds like I'll accept a motion for continuation with the permission from the applicant. Okay,
So moved.
all right, we have a motion, we have a second?
Thank
A motion and a second, all those in favor of continuing, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, and you'll get in contact with Bill Hannigan?
Yeah, if you could sign down on the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll open our next hearing.
Yeah, I should sit down.
Yep, now get what we're looking to do.
Clarify, what do you want to do?
Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection Municipal Bylaws, a public meeting on a request for determination of applicability by Chris Carroll and Jill Taglia for work at 171 Lancaster Ave will be held. Work entails stone pillar and grate relocation within a 100-foot buffer zone of a wetland resource area. And yes?
Yeah, I'm representing them.
Yep. Just a second, and then we'll have it set right there.
I marked it paid.
Thanks, man.
All right, I'll be in touch with Billy in the morning.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Yeah, fall right on the spot. How's it going? I'm Aaron Jensen. Chris unfortunately got pulled out of work, so he couldn't be here tonight. So he just asked me if I could come and represent him for the night. So I just was brought up to date on this. So I was just looking, basically, there's two pillars at the bottom of the property. Do you guys have any maps? I brought a couple. I don't know if you had any. It's another one. Because they're kind of pointed out right now. You can kind of see if you want to pass around. But there's two pillars right now, just kind of at the entrance of the driveway of the property, but they basically begin kind of where the driveway starts sloping up. So he wants to kind of relocate them so they go parallel with Lancaster Ave. More aesthetically, he thinks it's going to look better for it, and he wants to be able to put a gate there. And right now where they're proposed, it's kind of harder because it's on a slope to be able to get there. So that's what I know for that. And then he mentioned something about relocating one of the grates, but it's on town property, I believe. I think they spoke to you.
I've already spoke to Mr. Carroll.
So that's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Touching the grates and the pipe, not happening.
Yeah, so we'll basically just go forward with just the pillars then.
Okay. And I guess question one, do you have permission from the town to erect the pillars on the town property?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know we filed all the paperwork, I believe, necessary.
Yeah, because that would come from the DPW, I believe. Or at the very least from the
It
DPW.
has to go to the selectmen, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And in talking to Elaine, the selectmen are waiting on us to make a decision before they make their final decision.
Okay.
So it looks like he just wants to put two pillars on either side of his driveway. The closest one being, what, 73 feet So just 2 cement pillars just for cosmetic or aesthetic purposes?
Then, yeah, and then there'll be a gate too.
And a gate in between?
Yeah.
Are the pillars similar to what's there now, the proposed pillars? Or are they gonna be different, or what?
I'm not sure.
You don't know?
I believe myself, Jack, and Carl were out on site, and he said they were gonna be basically the same. I think they were 2 foot by 2 foot and about 4 feet tall. A couple things that aren't apparent from the plan. Number one, there's a perennial stream that's about 35 feet.
Right.
That it's very, very well contained, and it runs right up along the top of the picture.
Yep.
Crosses under Lancaster Ave and continues down. I don't think moving the pillars there myself is gonna have any effect on the water flow in that area.
What do they do about the piping?
That was the second question, was there is some sort of drainage that runs from where it states town land and heads north under the driveway. So that was a concern because that drain was plugged. But at this point, they don't have that in their proposal.
Well, I mean, as far as remediating the drain was one thing. What was proposed to me was to relocate the culvert and the pipe into the drainage basin. So essentially, you've got, where the pillars are existing,
Yep.
you've got a wetland going under the driveway, bleeding to the other wetland to the perennial stream. What I said to the owner was, and the owner's rep, was, don't even think about relocating that culvert and tying it into the catch basin. It's not going to happen. Commission's never going to allow it. You're basically altering a wetland, and it would probably actually kill the wetland on the right-hand side by doing that. So they pulled that out of the plans. That's what that was about.
Yeah, and he's where that, yeah,
So
I
they're
was told
gonna
that.
leave that wetland so it's no longer has that hydraulic connection under the driveway, the piping under the.
Well, the piping under the driveway, they're going to leave, so it has that hydraulic connection.
Okay.
Because you've got that little wetland on the right-hand side where all the drainage comes down, and you can, I mean, you go there today, you can see the groves of sensitive fern and the Joe Pye weed that's still growing, which shows there's a lot of water going through that even with this drought, because, you know, I got other areas of similar wetland construct, and all the ferns have wilted and died because of the drought, and this area is lush and green.
Okay, so my only question was, when we were on site, there was concern that the pipe was either plugged or crushed,
If they want to do repairs of the pipe and replace it, that's different.
but that's not involved here, or the only thing we're doing
No.
is just moving the pillars?
No,
from
nothing
there?
was ever discussed with me about repairing or replacing the culvert. What was discussed with me was taking everything and rerouting it. That's what was discussed with me.
Town property?
It looked like part of it could have been,
Part of it could have been in the right of way.
because it's right along this, it's right there, right along the property line, so it's hard to tell exactly where it is.
So to be clear, we're gonna move, is it 1 pillar or 2 pillars are gonna
I
move?
think it looks like both pillars are moving a
And they're
little
both
further.
gonna be moved within the 50-foot no structure zone, correct?
They're currently within the 50-foot no structure zone.
But we're moving their
So they're
location
coming
to
from one
a new location
to
with,
another location, correct.
okay.
I mean, so it really isn't any additional work being, or any additional structures being added, we're just moving a structure from one area to the next.
Are they, sorry, 'cause there is no plan, there's a picture here, so I don't know where the 30 and 50 foot are. Are they being moved inside the 30?
Honestly, they're probably close to or within the 30.
They're within the 30 now, they'd still be within the 30,
Where the
whatever
drainage
location they would put.
Is a wetland.
Just right here?
Yes, that is the edge of the wetland,
Okay,
and then it is piped under the driveway, and then the brook is about 30 feet on the other side.
all right.
Right, I mean, if you moved the gate
Yeah,
to go
right.
outside the 30 from where it is now with the pillars, it would start going up the hill.
Yeah, you'd be up about the
You know?
171.
Right.
I'd be in favor of them bringing the pillars back to this nice straight stretch of driveway where they may be outside of the 50-foot no structure zone.
But, you know, I guess I'm taking the other position that I bet you people are pulling in and trying to drive up that road.
Yeah,
They catch a
that's a-
fence that up the road is a lot more difficult than saying, hey, this is private property, don't go too far.
Whatever they construct, they're gonna have a gate there anyway.
Yeah, but then now you're partially up the hill, now you're trying to back down, and I think it just, it's a really
Could I ask a question about that?
Certainly.
Is that a heated...
Name and
drive-
address?
Carolyn Palo, 42 Meadow Lane.
Okay.
Is that a heated driveway?
I don't think it is.
No, okay, because typically they parked at the bottom a lot.
Because they couldn't get up.
Yeah, which is kind of my concern about the gate, only because have to be able to fit their cars where the gate would be to get.
Yeah, the
to get
gate,
to.
looking at the picture, it looks like it's still about 73 feet from the edge of the roadway. So they're not putting the gate right at the edge of the roadway. The gate's about 73 feet in off of the edge of Lancaster Ave.
Yeah, my-
Currently, it's about 100 feet in, and they're just changing the orientation of it.
My real concern was about the water and when that was blocked up.
Mm-hmm.
And is that going to stay blocked?
Well, at this point, it's not on the proposal to do anything with that, and that's kind of between the homeowner and the town, because it almost looks like it's on town property.
Yeah, if they want to work to replace that culvert, I mean, I'd definitely work with them, that's not a problem. But relocating that culvert and piping it away from the wetlands and relocating it somewhere else, it's not going to happen.
I'm just wondering if it was, when it was blocked, because where we live, my dad, I'm speaking on behalf of my father, John Palo, who's the owner, that wetland was all water that was actually a swamp up until I think they filled it in the 80s, late 70s, early 80s. So our concern is if they reroute that, how 42 Meadow Lane might be affected.
Nothing's going to be rerouted. And I've already made that perfectly clear to the owner.
Yeah, they're just concerned because all the puddling there. So I'll suggest when I go talk to him that he would be kind of not in favor, but if we want to talk about repairing it.
You guys
that
could try to
process.
propose it, but I got to be honest, I would lobby this commission tooth and nail because it's too detrimental to the wetland.
No, just to repair it.
Yeah, to repair it, that's fine.
Yeah, I'll suggest then.
Where is Meadow Lane?
Rolling Acres?
Oh, this wouldn't affect that at all.
So we're at I'm next to 48.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, because the wetland is on the
It's
south
downstream
side
of
of
it.
the driveway.
Right, I wasn't
And it
sure,
flows
yeah.
into the brook, and then Rolling Acres is on the north side of the brook. So you're way upstream from that wetland right there.
And based on communications I had with this gentleman sitting in the audience a couple days ago, I'm sorry, but your name is escaping me. Brad? Correct. Yeah. Based on conversations I had with Brad a couple of days ago, I went out this evening and just took a look around. By the way, the little silver Hyundai that you saw riding around wasn't me trying to case the neighborhood, I was checking the hillside out. And yeah, I agree with you, Mr. Chairman, the water would have to basically go uphill before it would affect them.
Okay.
I have a question.
Name and address, ma'am?
149 Lancaster Avenue, and I'm a direct abutter to 171, and I have a lot of questions.
We have.
Yeah, if you'd like, we have a microphone up here, ma'am.
Since there's
Mrs.
a lot
Shattuck.
of questions.
And just restate your name and address.
It's Ann Shattuck, and it's 149 Lancaster Avenue, and I am the owner, and I live there at 149. My property consists of 4.7 acres of land, and it directly abuts the property of 171 Lancaster Avenue in question. I have spoken with several of you when you did come out and took a look at some of the issues that I have and we have over the brook and the drainage and whatever. And I've just prepared a few things, if you will indulge me. This is kind of an impact statement along with some information. Over the course of time, since my family has lived on the property, previous owners have operated under the assumption that they owned my piece of property. One individual, in an attempt to get part of the hill to perk, created drains funneling down the hill into one large output drain, and I think you have mentioned that and referred to that, running across my land, creating a severe wetland situation, ultimately washing away soil and making walking in the area impossible at different times of the year. Someone must have understood that this land belonged to someone else because the drain stops short of my property line. One previous owner bulldozed and removed the gate across the property, the said property, on my side of the boundary line in question, scattering the large rocks and extending the stone wall down toward the brook, totally blocking off any access from Lancaster Avenue on my part. It was my father, Ernest Dalton, who owned the property at that time, and after speaking with the individual, and I believe it was Proctor building this stone wall and moving all this land, all these rocks, he mentioned to this person building that it was his land that he was building this stone wall over and not the people that owned the house above. And a legal notice was sent, and unfortunately, my father died shortly after that from a chronic illness. I remember him telling me that this was not going to directly affect him, but the next owner would certainly be concerned, and that's me. More recently, the IRS, in an attempt to auction the property off on the foreclosure, insisted that my property was part of the sale. I was forced to have my land surveyed over a weekend to prove my ownership. I would like to add that many of the markers and flags were torn down or disappeared from that event. During this past year, I've walked the hill, checking the boundaries, and have had to inform workmen with bulldozers where my boundaries were because they were dumping some of the uprooted trees on my side. Their response was, I thought it was all part of one piece of property. For years, I've been mowing the lawn in front of and behind this new stone wall that these people created. And to access the property in the back, I have walked around the stone wall and the tree in order to access my land. That's currently owned by Mr. Carroll and Ms. Travaglia. That has been the only access to my property to do that, and using this as an unwritten easement. I would like to address the issue of what the DPW did in front of the wall, digging out the drainage ditch this past year because they didn't really complete it. The trench is too deep and makes it difficult for me to mow it properly. I would like to continue to have some way of accessing my property on the hillside once again, or still. I'm concerned that moving the gate abutment and putting in a gate will prevent me from doing that. And in conclusion, I just had some thoughts this morning when I was doing this. And I remember climbing this hill as a kid in the late 1950s and sitting on the stone wall next to the oldest tree in Lunenburg, as I understand it, and taking in the view of the whole town. At that time, the hill was all pasture with Mr. Proctor's cows grazing on it, and it truly is a beautiful piece of property. And I can understand why, they want to beautify this. But I do have a concern, and that is my access to my land is being cut off by this removal of the abutments and a gate that will be going up. So thank you very much for your time.
Mr. Chair, I just have a couple comments. As far as, talking about the culverts and issues with the wetland, whether it be the existing homeowner, the DPW, none of that is why the applicant's here tonight.
Correct.
He's here looking at just putting in 2 pillars and moving a gate approximately, looking at the scale.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking maybe 30 feet-ish.
Correct.
And so we're looking at 2 pillars. I agree that everything that's been brought up tonight is an issue that we should talk about, but I don't know if it's right now during this hearing is the appropriate time, considering we're not talking about changing any culverts or doing any really major construction. Mm-hmm. That being said, from the wetland issue, I don't see any issue moving those pillars. In my opinion, it doesn't sound like it's going to move.
I agree with you.
But I don't know. I do hear what that last homeowner said, and I don't know if it's in their jurisdiction or not. If there's a right of way, I don't know how that works out. If that's something we got to factor into, but I can see that is going to clearly block off her into her land. I don't know how we handle that here with this board.
Existing that she was talking about. I don't think she's talking about the pillars.
Well, the easement to the property, right now, there is an easement, right? You can see, with this gate closed, she can get into her property. I'm assuming this is your property right here.
Right.
Yeah, she can get in with the gate closed. Once we move that gate, it's gonna cut off all access.
I don't think that's our problem.
I don't know
That's not our,
It's not, doesn't,
I think at this point, my recommendation would be to give our recommendation of the pillar movement in writing to the selectmen and continue the hearing as such. It's the selectmen's purview whether to allow the pillars, because it is not our jurisdiction to say they can put the pillars on.
Well, I
town
mean, we
property.
could give a positive or negative determination and then
Correct.
make a
We'll give our
recommendation.
But I would certainly not give a formal approval nor vote either way until we have the
Mr. Chairman,
writing to, yes.
If I can interject.
Mhm.
I tend to view the movement of the pillars similar to if we're replacing a stone wall that was existing. I wouldn't have any problem if they were going to replace the existing pillars because they were deteriorating, but I would not be in favor of relocating those pillars.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to voice my support for that point of view. If to replace them in place is one thing, and we have a lot of precedent, and that's the normal thing, but to move them, even if it's, not worse or better from it's not, it's new territory. And I think we have the opportunity to either let them repair them, replace them where they stand, or improve the situation by moving them back 50 feet.
Mr.
Yes,
Chairman?
Mr. Pease.
So the applicant owns Lot 1 or Lot 2 on this diagram?
I believe they own both.
Both.
They own both?
Yes.
And so the last speaker owns what lot on this diagram?
At the very northern tip, right there. Drop your finger. Right there.
Right there?
Yes.
I got it now, thank you so much.
So I'm confused too, I was going to ask this, but since you brought it.
Yep.
So which lot is 171?
I think 171 is both lots 1 and 2 on the picture.
Okay, I was mistaken.
So the
it's not
same
that they'll have
address?
access to the
No.
other lot.
No, I believe she was talking about an existing wall that was built by a previous owner. Is that correct, Mrs. Shattuck?
Yes.
Okay.
It was built
Yeah, so that would certainly not be within our jurisdiction to have any opinion.
I mean, my recommendation is the boundary dispute doesn't fall within our purview.
Correct. Okay.
Now, I know there seems to be a division among philosophies here with the commission. I don't see any harm in moving the pillars myself, environmentally. I don't see an impact to wetland environmentally. The impact on the buffer zones are like for like, even though they're being relocated, it's still like for like. So if the commission wants to issue the negative determination, my recommendation would be that our recommendation to the Board of Selectmen is that we acted within the bounds of our regulations, but express a note that it was brought to our attention that there is a potential boundary dispute, that there may be an access issue that was expressed by an abutter, so that the Board of Selectmen is aware that that was brought up at our meeting and they can consider it.
Mr. Chairman, I'd
Yes,
like
Mr.
to
Pease.
hear from the applicant's representative that they definitively own lots 1 and 2, rather than it's our opinion.
I can't say yes or no.
Could you show?
No, I know what you're saying, but I'm not gonna answer yes or no on that, 'cause I'm not
Then
100% sure.
He's a representative. He's here representing.
And so if we don't know definitively that they own lots 1 and 2, I'm not prepared to vote on this at all.
Well, they're proposing to move them to the town land.
Which is why they have to go to the Board of
Why
Selectmen.
they're going to the Board of Selectmen.
Exactly.
But Mr. Pease does bring up a good point in that if, the owner of the property, it has to be really clear to be being represented here or carry a note from the owner that you didn't bring a note, you're not necessarily.
I have an email from Jill Travalia.
You do?
Yes, I do.
Stating.
Yes.
I'm clearly representing him, I just don't want to answer yes or no, because I'm not
And they
100%
did,
sure myself.
I mean, they
If
did
That's a
talk
smart answer.
as
Yeah.
they were the owners of both. I mean, it's
Okay.
kind of hard
You have a
to,
note from-
yeah, it's kind of hard to have the house without having access to the house. If you
And-
look at the way the
I'm
property
99%
lines
sure,
are
but I'm not
drawn.
gonna give you 100%.
And we can make that clear in whatever determination we make, that it needs to be on your own land.
Yeah.
That's-
I guess.
But that's not what they're proposing.
That's not what they're proposing.
I'm sorry.
Town land.
It needs to be on your own land or the town land. If they don't own lot 1 and they're.
Well, there's no dispute as to the area that where the gate is and where they're looking to move is either their property or town property. There's no question about that. So, I mean, raising the Lot 1 and Lot 2 issue actually is moot. It doesn't really matter. It has no impact.
Agreed.
And they're clearly moving it to town property, and they're aware of that.
Yeah. So they really can't come before us because it's not their property.
No, they're coming before us because they want to do this, and then the selectmen said they want to hear our determination before they hear them.
Certainly come before us as applicants.
So they came before us as applicants, and it's going to be
And then
conditioned.
it sounds like it's clear that the selectmen are aware of this.
That's
that they
correct.
have to go
I've been
forward.
communicating with Elaine on this the whole time.
Yeah.
So we say if there's an impact or not, if they put the pillars there, then the town looks at it and says, you know what, yeah, we're going to either allow you or not allow you to put the pillars on our property. I think it is the process. Right.
And as far as moving the pillars themselves, I would concur with Matt's determination as far as long as the pillars are the same size as the existing ones come out and the new ones go in, it's basically a zero-sum change at that point, because you're not getting any closer or further from the wetlands.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to hear from the applicant's representative. What are the reasons for not going to the 50-foot line?
I believe that they just like it more at a level ground, so when you pull up and they basically kind of block it, it's gonna be on town property, but more at the edge of their property, instead of being further up, like I said, people, it's like a curious property, so people just drive up there, you know.
Yeah, but they're going to drive an extra 20 feet.
But it looks like, you know, you'll be able to see the gate now right from the road versus if it's up 50 feet, you're going to have to drive up, say, oh crap, there's a gate here, and reverse down.
I mean, visually, it's pretty obvious the minute you get off the road. that there's a
But you
gate.
essentially go onto their property, but if they're in town, you can never go onto the property.
Yeah, and Carl, to move it 50 feet from the wetland, you'd be moving it about 300 yards up the driveway, because this wetland exists all the way back through here.
Yeah, and that was my question. What is the reason for not going to 50 feet? And if it's because it moves at 300, feet or yards up the driveway, then that's a good reason, but
No, definitely an excellent question. Definitely an excellent question.
If I could just help clarify. Town owns the property, so theoretically, the owner of that property needs to be coming and making a petition to us, even though there's been, there has been exchanges, but they need to be filing formally to move that, right? They are the owners. Now, from what I understand, they're looking to us for a recommendation as to whether or not they want to come before us to have that moved. We can't approve somebody who isn't being represented movement on somebody else's property. So therefore, the town needs to come to us with that request.
Well, hence the reason I tried to clarify that I would recommend that we give our response without any approval. That allows the applicant to go forth to the town
on the property now,
and
so-
request permission.
Okay.
Yes, I am not in favor of any formal approvals this evening.
Their property now.
But the selectmen are
Yeah,
aware
I'm saying, but
of
they're on the property now, so it's
project,
fine with the
so-
pillars on.
I mean, nothing's being hidden, everything's
I thought
above
you said that
board,
the
so.
pillars are on the town land now.
At this point, do we have any other discussion from the commission on the moving of the pillars?
So am I to take this, because you do have another option under law, are you denying the request for determination based on lack of ownership or lack of control?
We haven't gotten that far yet.
Where it looks on the plan, it looks like the pillars are on his property right now.
The existing pillars are on the property. The
right now.
location they're trying to move them to is on the town's property.
Correct.
So it has been communicated to our agent that the selectmen are the authority to approve moving the pillars. They are looking for our recommendation on if we would allow the pillars to be moved, should they give their approval to have them put on town property. So.
To me, that seems like sort of a semantic point.
Correct.
Whether we issue a negative determination tonight to the applicant or to the town that comes before us for the same project.
Okay.
Personally, I don't think it makes any difference.
To me, that's just wasting town's money.
Even formally hear it.
Why couldn't we formally
Why
hear
couldn't we
it? I mean,
formally
they're asking for
The people
permission,
that
we can't.
petition are the wrong people.
All you're
And they're gonna go
really
ask the
doing with the
owners, and if
determination.
the owners say no, then that's the end of it.
And
We
if
haven't
the-
approved anything.
And if the selectmen were to resolve the issue beforehand and then
Yeah,
come to us.
but now you're putting the burden on the
I'd like to
selectmen
correct
to
you,
come forth? I
Jack,
don't think
because,
that's correct.
because we've done the same thing on septic systems where tree cutting and grading was done.
I think we're
on a
really getting
piece of
carried
property.
away with this at this point.
I'm prepared to make a
All right,
motion.
At this point, is there any other questions on the pillars, moving the pillars from the commission? Are there any questions? Yes, Mr. Lett.
It's not so much a question, but it's where you're going. I think there may be a different opinion, and there may be two inputs. And I fully support your not taking a vote tonight.
Yep.
And to postpone that. But in terms of giving the selectmen an input, I think there may be different input if it was, as requested, move the pillars onto the town land, or if it was replace the pillars where they stand. I think one of those would be a unanimous support, and and I know the other one would not.
Okay. My next question, is there any questions from the public on 171 Lancaster Ave? Yes, sir. Just state your name and address.
Brad Coons, 48 Meadow Lane. I'd just like to request the commission give careful attention to the work going on 171 Lancaster Avenue as it affects many properties to the east, north, and west. And that's all. Thank you.
Okay.
Ann Shattuck, 149 Lancaster Avenue again. I believe that the abutment placement, not the abutment, the pillar placement is they want to move it onto their own property. I don't think that that's a question. My question and my concern is the fact that when they do that, according to the map that they provided and filed, cuts my access off to my piece of property that runs up beside that hill. I also have another concern, and I didn't see that you addressed it, is the culvert and the drainage that was created, that there's a tremendous amount of water that flows off that hill down over my property into the brook that has washed away a great amount of my land. I don't know whether or not that's anything that is wetland, if that's been addressed, if that's something that you've ever considered rerouting or burying or whatever to take care of that. But that's
Unfortunately, it's not on the it's not on the application before us.
Sure, how does someone get this back in here?
Where the access to your property is, so we have a clear understanding.
Sure. These are the two existing pillars right here, and this is where they want to move it to. And so this is the driveway. The original driveway, when Mr. Madonia built it, was a little bit further over to the left towards the center, and he was granted an easement. And then I believe it was Mr. Wood moved that, along with creating more drainage down in front of the stone wall. But they acted as if they owned all of the land, unfortunately. This is where the stone wall is, and where they want to move the pillar would totally close that gap, and I think that it appears that their intent, their intent is to put a gate up there and eliminate all access to the hill.
So could you help me?
there you go.
So is there, I think what I'm hearing is there's a
Right.
stone wall, sort of where those two black
Yes,
lines are?
Yes.
And so by putting the pillar there, you'd have to get
Yeah,
through the
and
gate
see?
to go
Right.
on the other side of the wall.
This is their piece of property, along with this piece of property, and I think it's A and B, and I may be wrong on the letters. This is mine and runs across the top, along with my house is down here. And there are other individuals here in the room that are concerned, obviously, about
So they would be
other
gating
stuff.
public property.
It's not public property.
I don't believe it's
Private
public
property.
property, it's their property.
If it's moved down, I believe it's going to be on town property.
Yeah, that's what we're saying, right? The proposal is to go onto town land.
Yes,
One of the pillars,
The gate is to
5
have
feet
the
on,
pillars
yes.
on the town
On
property.
so
Correct.
you're gating town property.
But again, that's not our decision.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just our recommendation on if we would allow the pillars to be placed where they're asking them to be placed.
From an environmental perspective.
Correct, from within our jurisdiction.
Right.
So at this point, do we have any other comments from the public? So what I would recommend doing is polling the members on an approval of moving the pillars from their existing location to their proposed location.
So that would be recommending a -3 determination.
Yes, and it's just a poll, so we're giving our recommendation without formally.
Well, keep in mind that a negative versus a positive determination doesn't really give approval.
Right.
What it is it's saying you either need to file an NOI or you don't need to file an NOI.
Yep.
That's all you're really saying.
So by giving him.
I mean, if you say a negative, you simply saying you don't trigger the Wetland Protection Act. The final approval actually is going to be up to the Board of Selectmen. So you're going to have to write a separate letter that I would have to author, and you guys would review, and then I would send to the Selectmen on that issue.
And Mr.
Myself, I would still have a problem approving an application where the landowner has not given permission.
But why couldn't we approve it based on, or condition that it's not, I don't know how I want to word, but just based on the fact that it's not, you can't do any work until the Lunenburg Selectmen authorize it or give their permission.
I feel like we can issue a negative determination tonight without giving the approval for the project. It's not our project to approve.
Well, you could simply add a condition that no work can commence on property not owned by the applicant until that property owner approves.
Just because,
right.
if we do that way,
Do it that way.
You want to make a motion to that extent?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we issue the negative 3 determination to move the pillars in the proposed locations on this plan.
Assuming the size is equal and the
Yeah,
old
assuming
pillars
it's the
are
same
removed.
size, or same area. And conditioned that it needs to get approval from the landowner, which in this case is Lunenburg. So they have to get permission from the Lunenburg Selectmen to move forward with the project.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion, we second. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate
Reiterate.
my position that while there isn't significant, it's, as you stated, it's a zero sum for the wetland. For me to consider something like this, I would think there would have to be some sort of net benefit. So I'm going to just voice my opposition to this proposal.
Do we have any other
I
discussion?
would note that the agent in his recommendation on this recommended a negative determination, but he also recommended that the motion include a waiver for a pre-existing condition, and I think the motion should note that since it's inside the buffer zone.
It's inside the no structure and no touch zones.
I'll accept that amendment.
Okay.
The only, how do we get in if it's part of the amendment? That is a more procedural issue, Mr. Chairman. Because there was a statement you made before that whatever we send to the selectmen, this is going to go up or down. We would make it clear that we were strictly talking about the environmental impact and within our jurisdiction, and just because I've been in so many of these meetings that. And I heard it even alluded to tonight. The minute one board approves something, then it's like a domino effect, and every board, they approved it. Well, so now, now it's not a problem because they approved it. So I think we need to make it very clear to the selectmen what our decision is based on, so that they understand that we really aren't approving it. We're doing what our job is.
Yeah. I mean, they can watch the meeting and they can
You want
hear
to
our
read
discussion.
back the motion that was made, Matt?
Well, the motion that was made was that Commissioner Bertram moved to issue a negative determination, assuming the same size of the same size dimensions of the existing pillars, and that they would cover the same area as pre-existing, meaning ground-wise, and that the owner or the applicant would need to obtain approval from the Board of Selectmen as the property owners. Mr. Jones seconded, and Mr. Pease amended to include that would include the waivers from the restrictive zones under the bylaw.
And can we include a cover letter when we send assuming that the motion passes, include a cover letter to cover some of Carl's concerns that this determination is made strictly from the environmental standpoints within our jurisdiction?
Oh, absolutely.
And we do not have any...
Absolutely.
We do not have any input as to any of the landowners' concerns with property line and past work that has been done.
I mean, I can generate that letter tomorrow and send it out, and then, copy it with the form.
Would that cover your concerns, Carl, as long as we have a cover letter stating that?
I would also accept that amendment to my motion.
Mr.
No,
Chairman.
it would just be a cover letter from the office that would go with the determination. Yes,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to reflect on what Todd has shared with us, in that essentially there is no net benefit, and when we do, allow somebody to move a wall or whatever, we're looking for some sort of an improvement. I'm having a problem with the fact that I think the wrong people are coming to us, And while they're asking for guidance, I'm not for a vote, I'm not for a polling, as you suggested. And I also think we're losing an opportunity. If the town were to say yes to do that, we should have the opportunity to create a net benefit again, meaning that what can we roll something else into this that would allow essentially maybe cleaning out the culvert or rerouting something and looking at it a lot closer. We're giving up an opportunity to make an improvement by just going along with this. And I think that, again, no net benefit, it's the wrong people coming, we're making decisions on that, and we're just we're giving something up.
Well, I guess my concern would be from a jurisdictional standpoint, are you suggesting we withhold our determination in lieu of some other work to be done?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
One thing that we didn't get is, they indicated they were going to replace the pillars in kind, but one of the things we don't know is what the actual structure and foundation of those pillars are, how deep they extend it into the ground. So another point for commissioners to consider is a positive determination would force them to submit an RDA, where we might be able to get more of those details for exactly what they're going to do when they replace the pillars, digging, all those sorts of things that may occur. Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments from the commission?
Just a procedural question, Mr. Chair. Should this pass, negative determination, should it be addressed now or after this vote? Because I would like to also, if that happens, I would also like to get into the letter to the selectmen, a sense of the poll, not a vote, but a sense of the poll.
Actually, at this point, we have a motion for negative determination of the application.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, so it's not a poll, it's
a
motion, yeah.
I'm saying if this passes, I would like to get into the letter, and I can bring it up after the motion if we get the time. I would like to get into the letter what the commission's poll would be to simply to replace the pillars where they stand. So is that something we bring up after, or is that something that?
Well,
because I
guess that's kind of redundant if it doesn't pass, then.
Yeah, if it doesn't pass, then it's a moot point.
Yeah.
So I'll bring it up after if it passes.
All right, so we have a motion, do we have a second? Do we have any other discussion? All those in favor of Tom's motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
So
It's 4-3.
yeah, so myself, Tom, Bob, and Ken in favor, Todd, Jack, and Carl opposed.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to request a poll of the commission that would be included in the cover letter as to what the poll would be, what the sense of the commission would be to simply replace the pillars where they stand.
So you're going to make a motion to that effect?
Is that a motion? Okay. I make a motion that we include in the letter to be submitted a sense of the commission regarding replacing the pillars where they stand. If that were the question, if that were the motion, what would the commission feel?
Positive.
Yeah, I think it'd be unanimous, but I think
we have a motion, we have a second for the poll?
Second.
All right, a motion, a second.
By positive, do you mean you would be in favor of it, or you would be in favor of a positive determination?
I'd be in favor of
A negative determination.
In favor of just replacing the pillars. If a proposal was before us to replace the pillars in their location.
I would have been in favor of that as well.
And this is with the assumption that the posts are currently on their property.
I don't.
Right where they stand.
We've already taken a vote.
Right where they are, wherever properties are on today.
All right, so we have motion, we second. All those in favor of Carl's poll, say aye. Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
And we'll draft the cover letter, and if you can just send us a quick copy of the cover letter before it goes out, to make sure that all of the points we hit on it. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So we'll get the determination out to Jill and
Chris.
And then you can go forth and submit to the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
Essentially, all we did was we voted that you don't need to move forward with any other permits from us to do that work.
Yes.
So.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And number 6, we had a status update from Lake Shirley Improvement Corp. Is anybody here from Lake Shirley? What's that?
Lake Shirley?
Yes. For the
Are you
algae
representing
treatment?
Fried?
Pardon?
Nope, this is for the status for Lake Shirley Improvement Corporation.
Disappointing. All right, I don't know if everybody got a chance to take a look at the post-treatment algae test that came through.
Yeah.
So basically, all the algae was basically killed off. So we went from 12,000 cell count per milliliter to 6. So, but it doesn't seem to have affected the turbidity or the Secchi disk readings.
Right, yeah. And I can say that the middle lake is getting worse.
As far as turbidity?
Actually, both the middle and the south from the Secchi disk readings from the 29th of July and the 7th of August. The south's actually lost a couple feet in some of those locations.
Right.
Because they were 8, 7, 6, 6.
And the algae counts in those locations remain low?
I don't know that
Well, we
they
haven't
took
seen
any.
the algae counts in the other basins, so they just, Matt had
Didn't drop below
recommended
6.
Right.
the testing in the North Basin after
Right,
they tested.
right.
Now, they were doing algae counts prior, and they were much lower in the middle, in the South Basin, so.
Were we on the trigger with regard to the blue-green algae?
Yeah, I think that's, and I don't know if it's tonight, maybe we need to have another discussion when there's some representatives here. But I think with this experience, we might be able to learn from this experience is that just using Secchi disk is not a good measure for algae treatments. That we really need to have that data, and we almost did. They were a little late. If they had gotten the data a week earlier, we could well have said, no, it's not bad enough to go dumping copper and heavy metals in the lake. So when we look at the order of conditions and the plan, I would suggest that we have some different
Look at some
criteria, that it
historical
isn't just
knowledge moving
automatic
forward,
if it's 4 feet or 4.5 feet.
I will say, it sounded like both Ken and Dominic, who are the professionals, were quite surprised that there was very little movement in the clarity of the water.
Yeah.
They definitely both thought that the clarity would come up when the algae was knocked down,
Right.
which didn't happen. I mean, there was almost no change at all in the clarity of the water.
I've been out there several times in the last 2 weeks, and there's no appreciable difference.
No, there really isn't. And I think one of Dr. Wagner's emails stated that his feeling now is where the water's down and there's no movement, the boats are continually kicking up the sediment from the bottom and it's not precipitating out, so.
See that?
Yeah, which will have consequences moving forward with the plant life and the other aquatic life in the water, blocking the sunlight, exactly. So it'll be something to see what happens, so. Because the last time that the
Well, I mean, you know,
the
it's-
Secchi disk were this low, when you had the big bloom, killed everything off in the lake,
God,
so.
yes.
But I mean, you know, and there's a lot more to turbidity and water cloudiness than just algae.
Oh,
so-
definitely, yes, yep.
And this is a good example of the fact that that's happening. I mean, this drought has impacted many lakes in many different ways. Algae is one of the most prominent ones. There's been algae treatments all over the state at the same time that Shirley was being done because of the drought.
And those had higher algae counts, so, I mean. it was-
Much.
Yeah. Yeah, and it does bloom fairly quickly also, so it's not
Much.
something
I
you
mean-
can make from week to week to week.
I would agree, because other benchmarks, I would agree with Carl's assessment, because other benchmarks I've used in other lakes across the state where I've looked at, you know, saying, hey, you need to do a copper sulfate treatment, was based on algae counts more than it was a Secchi dish.
I think you're right, Carl. I think it's a good learning experience for us to.
Yeah, definitely
going
is.
forward.
Yep.
It just shows what a good comprehensive testing program, with a varied amount of testing can give you, as far as the story as to what's going on inside.
Certainly, we're not experts in this field, so we're all kind of learning as we go.
Yeah, and they have, I mean, we've been involved in the steps, almost every step of the way, so.
and I think that's
Matt's
an-
definitely been involved with Solitude and their professionals.
To me, that's an improvement over what we've done in the past, so I think
Yes.
it's good.
Yeah, it's a vast improvement over
What
their
I'm
experience.
really happy about is the fact that we actually all went on the boat.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make arrangements with Lake Shirley to do that now, but the gentleman that does the testing, his boat's out, and I guess Mr. Wagner is doing the testing right now, so, you know, I've just been spending the week trying to make sure everything was prepped for this meeting, but, you know, I was gonna talk to Carl some more about maybe having us go back out on Carl's boat and taking a look around the lake again.
I think to that point, and I would encourage that, because it changes all the time, and the more we learn, even though we're not experts, you get better at it. So I would again suggest that we reach out, and I know Mr. Patri's boat is out of commission. It's always sad to see a boat up on the land. But that we offer to go out with him, because I think we've never been out with him. We've been out, and we don't know exactly really where he takes the measurements or how he takes them, so there's another thing to be learned there.
That's a good idea.
That's an excellent point.
Invite LSIC.
Yeah, right, absolutely.
The nice thing about that is that as we're actually getting involved, physically being out and seeing those results, it gives us a better feel for when they come in.
Yeah.
Every year and talk to us about treatment strategy, because we're not trying to visualize it in our heads. We've actually been there and done that,
All right, and so Matt, if you can try to contact LSIC and see if we can get them to the next meeting, just to go over what their findings were, if they have any more information for us. And I believe we also wanted to start working on the other points of the lake management plan that we had brought up to them that we wanted to get updated prior to the start of the drawdown in the fall. All right, moving forward with continuing business, we have our enforcement, yes.
Mr. Chair, just before we go into continuing business, we have one resident here. If I would recommend we just ask where on this list, because I think she's the only one here.
She was here for public comment. She came in for public comment.
Could we take that now, or
Yep.
just, she's been here for a while. Waiting patiently, and I know there's...
I've been up since 4 this morning. Hi, I'm Renee Trakamus, and I live in Lunenburg on Page Street, and I own a boarding facility. It's called Sunrise Stables, and what I run is a ride for the New England Horse and Trail Association, and this is my 14th year with the Shirley Holden Road Field. I put it off there, and we ride through some of the Shirley Conservation into the Lunenburg Conservation from Burridge to Robb's Hill. And so I have last year's letter, and I'm looking for an update for this year. But what I also wanted to add to the letter is I'm looking for permission also to clear the existing pathways to make it safe for all to pass, including the horses. And I'm looking for, I don't know, it'll have to come up as a, to permanently mark the trails, if that's any way possible, indiscreetly, horse height. That way, and I know there might be conflicts because other people are using the trails and they mark their own trails as a group, whether it be the walkers, hikers, but I feel like this is my 15th year and I'd like to permanently mark it with indiscreet markers. And
when are you looking to do when are you looking for permission for? What's the date?
my ride's scheduled this year for October 30th.
Okay.
And I leave from the Holden Road Field, and like I said, we do parts of Lunenburg.
Okay. Do you have example of the marker that you're looking to use?
You know, I have,
Zach, this is actually on your cloud in the meeting folder.
Okay.
yeah.
But it's not on the agenda,
have,
so we really can't vote on it tonight.
With the New England Horse and Trail Association, I've ridden other rides. The Barry Conservation Group has used blue markers. I think that's too bold. Groton Conservation has used mini blinds, and they've cut them 4 inches long, and they've put a point on the end, and they've stapled it to the tree. And it doesn't rust, it doesn't rot, it doesn't damage the tree, and it's hidden pretty well. Other than that, I paint my round plastic plates with arrows on it, and I go around stapling my directions, and then the next day take them all down.
So are you offering your services to put these trail markers up?
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Okay. What I might suggest is if you just have a rough hand-drawn map and a example of what you're looking to do, and we'll schedule a meeting so we can officially vote on it.
Oh, that'd
That would be great.
wonderful. This is a makeshift map that I've had for 14 years, and both of them, sometimes they include a certain pathway. It depends on flooding, and the flooding is on the Shirley area. And I have Conservation Commission meeting with Shirley next Tuesday. I do have my approvals from the Lunenburg Police Department. I'm all clear there, because if there's any accidents, I want them to have a map to know where to access.
And if we could just get a copy of that also.
Yeah.
So at this point, I would recommend we put approval of this on the October 7th meeting agenda.
September 7th?
September 7th.
September 7th,
I just
yes.
have one question. As far as the markings, so it looks like you're doing a loop?
Yes, all the Shirley property.
Let's see.
Here's Flat Hill.
Yeah.
Here's Rob Hill.
Yeah.
Here is the Shirley Conservation. All of this is private property that I have permission to go on, which is Gordon Kimball.
Yep.
So,
And then, so where, so just...
this is the same exact map, but what I have to do to guide the people through, this was closed off. It's on the Shirley side. It's on the Green Gate off of Holden Road in Shirley. The beavers have flooded the pathways, so I didn't want anybody to destroy the pathways or go through and get hurt. So what I did was I took away certain pathways, because Holden Road is our exit.
Okay. So, I'm looking at Robb's Hill. So the entrance to the Robb's Hill property in
Right
Lunenburg
here.
is right here?
Yep.
Okay.
The entrance is right here, and here's Burridge, and here's the exit. So what I do is they go into the Burridge entrance, and they exit out Robb's Hill, and then we hook up to the Shirley side of Conservation.
All right, and then, so your markers, where would they, so you're,
I would start, I call it Red Car Route. It would start here on the Burridge side, and then continue around. It's not all the pathways, because you just can't do all the pathways. I put a 4-mile loop.
okay, and so where would you end? So if you did this, where would you end?
I would end on the Shirley, on the end of the Lunenburg side, and I'm gonna ask Shirley Conservation if I can also mark theirs.
Okay. Yeah, just my only question, the only reason I'm asking this is that I can just see a hiker going in here and seeing some markers and just following the trail. And I just want to know where he's going to end up.
He has to look quite high
Yeah.
to,
Or she, sorry.
I was to be placing
to pick up the markers, because I'm on horseback.
So we're talking
hanging
8, 9
these.
feet up.
But if he starts here, he will be going my pathways, he will end at Robb's Hill. And actually, that brought up something else. I'm working with I'm a member of the Agricultural Commission, so I'm working with kids. I'm going to start working with the kids with the 4-H. And what they're going to do, they've asked if I can take them for walks in our woods, and they want to help me clear, which is very, very good. Going back to clearing also, may I have permission to clear the existing pathways that are there and keep an open safe? And if I need a 4-wheeler, I am well marked with a jacket that states who I am with my permission letter to clear, because since the ice storm and all the widowmakers, they're still coming down. So.
Yeah, as long as the clearing is within the footprint of the pathways, we'd have no problem, because we would be trying to do it ourselves. So
Yep.
Having somebody
we'd
offer
welcome
to do
that.
that for us would be great, so.
Well, I noticed there's no stewards, for conservation, so I've done it for years.
Yeah, no, that's great.
That's
and-
awesome.
Yeah. And I noticed where you charge for it, so that would certainly help
Not
give some
much.
of that back, yeah. So, yep, so I would recommend that we put that on our next agenda so we can formally vote on it.
Oh, that would be great.
And if you can have the permission letter from the police department, the map, and then an example of the
Right,
markers you're gonna
example
have.
marker You're gonna use, have that either drawn out, or if you have a physical example, you could show us.
Okay, and I can bring everything to you, Matt?
Right.
Okay, okay, awesome,
Yeah, great.
awesome. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. All right, have a good evening.
Thank you.
All right, moving forward, 101 Pleasant Street continuation. Do you have an update on that, Matt?
Well, can I do 101 and 190 in block form?
Certainly can.
Okay. Essentially, the last request I got from Mr. Rowe was he wanted a summary of the timelines on everything that had happened for his records. I've sent him the power of attorney form. that, by the way, is also in our action items that you had asked me to send him. I did send him a reminder that because the form that I came up with is required to be notarized, that I am a notary, so if he wants to just, him and Danny want to come up, sign the form, and I can notarize it myself and put it into the file, that's fine too. I'm in the middle of gathering information for Adam to have, because apparently there is, they're going to be soliciting, they're either soliciting bids or going to be soliciting bids for contractors to do the work for the town, or at least get prices so that they know what they're going to wind up charging Mr. Gardner for the work. But they're not going to let, my recollection is they're not going to, the Board of Selectmen is not going to let Danny do the work on the town's property at all. They're going to have somebody else do it.
It didn't sound like that at watching the selectmen's meeting.
Right, and that's essentially it for now. I'm just, the last meeting we had, Jamie had a certain date to get the NOI in for the September meeting. I'm still waiting on those documents. So.
Okay.
So Jamie's up for the next meeting then?
Believe it's either the next meeting or the meeting after. I think you guys you extended his enforcement order until the 21st.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
My understanding was that they were supposed to come back the first meeting in September.
September, correct.
Back and completed by the 22nd.
Correct,
Right.
yes.
Right.
Yep, so they're supposed to be in on the 7th of September.
Yep.
And he had an extra week because of the way the calendar works to get the application in. So he
That's
still
correct.
has till next Wednesday to get the application in.
That's right, we have an extra Wednesday.
Correct. Yes.
And did we get an email from the applicant to have Jamie, his engineer, be his point of contact?
That's what the power of attorney form is for.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a physical form that I've come up with that we emailed.
Okay.
And that Danny is going to sign.
Okay.
And he has to have either somebody else notarize it, or he can sign it in front of me and I'll notarize it.
Okay.
Yep, yeah, it's the same letter the planning board uses, so basically states that the engineer has the right to enter into any agreements, and the landowner will follow any agreements made by the applicant's
Yeah, the
engineer.
only thing I did was I customized it towards conservation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So instead of saying, A&R plan, it says notice of intent, request of determination, or a notice of resource area delineation.
Yeah, and I think we were pretty clear on making sure that he was here for the 7th of September. So, and I believe, has he had any communications with the town manager or land use director since our meeting? Either one.
Okay. Yes, he has spoken with Adam Burney. Jamie Rowe has spoken with Adam Burney. Adam has drafted a scope of work, and we are in the process of putting together an RFP to solicit bids for the remediation at 225 Pleasant Street. Question that I have is the deadline for the plan for the town was this evening, and I don't see 225 Pleasant Street on the agenda. As was discussed at the last meeting where Mr. Rowe was present, Mr. Gardner has indicated that he is willing to remediate the work and at his cost. As was noted, the selectmen would prefer that another contractor do the work, and actually, we have not formally voted, but that's certainly the consensus of the board, that we would prefer an outside contractor to do the work. So I would ask that the deadline for the town enforcement order be extended to the 22nd, which is the deadline, I believe, for 101 Pleasant Street.
Yes, yeah, it was the 21st, yep.
Yeah, you can do
All right, yeah, so at this point, I guess we'll just accept a quick motion to extend the enforcement order, which I thought we had talked about, but apparently we didn't do. So they all line up on September 21st with the other, with 190.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Any discussion?
Oh, any discussion? Any discussion?
I just want to express concern because at our last meeting, we also heard that the town was in the process of generating an RFP. And I hear they're still generating an RFP. And the reason we had the deadline up here was because it was under the town's control and they should be able to get it done. But I'm just concerned that an RFP does not take over 2 weeks to to generate necessarily.
Adam's on vacation now, so that's what's happened, and with the turmoil in the town manager's office.
So he got out of town in time.
Yes, the issue is at the last meeting, when the action was taken on the 225 Pleasant Street property, which was prior to the meeting with Mr. Rowe, the town was under the impression that Mr. Gardner was not willing to do the work, necessarily willing to do the work, and then we found that he was. So we've been attempting to have conversations with Mr. Rowe to determine what they are willing to do, what they are not. There was discussion at one point of having the town, DPW, attempt to do some of the mitigation work. I do know that Mr. Burney has obtained the plan from Kinder Morgan, has reviewed that with Jack Rodequins, so it's not as if work has not stopped. He has developed a preliminary outline, the tasks that need to be done. We were holding off on the RFP until they talked with Mr. Rowe on exactly what Mr. Gardner was willing to do. They have now determined that Mr. Gardner is willing to pay for the work on the property, and Mr. Rowe and Mr. Burney have been in communication. Unfortunately, Mr. Rowe was on vacation, and now Adam is on vacation, as well as the town manager. So the 3 weeks of vacation have definitely affected the ability to send out an RFP. But the tasks have at least been drafted on what would be contained in the RFP, and the intent is to go forward with that.
So comment is, vacations are vacations. People know when they're going on vacations. They could have asked us for an extension before tonight, before the deadline. But I'm not sure that there's any more. All we were looking for was the plan. We weren't looking for quotes for contractors being hired or anything else. We were just looking for the plan, and it sounds like the plan is there, right? I mean, the town is going to hire somebody, get the work done.
Well, no, that's not correct. The plan, my understanding is Mr. Rowe will do the plan as part of the work at 101 Pleasant Street. The town is looking for a contractor to do the actual remediation work, but my understanding is that Mr. Rowe is going to be preparing the plan.
Yeah, but again, no, my mind, a plan is not the detailed drawing. The plan is the town is going to hire a contractor, they're going to get the work done by such and such a time. That to me is a plan, not the piece of paper on the table.
Well, I thought, my understanding was you were looking for a design.
I think
I'm looking for a design.
Okay, so let's just be clear on what we're looking for.
Yes, I'm a little puzzled, because how are you going to issue an RFP to contractors to do the work if they don't know the work they have to do?
Well, that's exactly the problem,
Right.
is that we've outlined the tasks, and I can put together, I will be honest with you, it's a very rough outline that I received today, that outlines 4 tasks, to review the Fitchburg expansion project, perform a site-specific, basically the Kinder Morgan plan, perform a topographic survey of the disturbed area, including the area immediately adjacent, to determine the extent of the filling and the alteration, and that needs to be graphically represented on a engineered plan. Conduct a pre-construction meeting on site with the Lunenburg Conservation Administrator, Lunenburg Land Use Director, and the contractor to perform the proposed work. Supervise the removal of material added to the slope and the regrading of the area to the pre-disturbed conditions. So that's, that's the plan.
That's a plan, yeah.
So, we have come up with exactly what the plan is. It was my understanding this commission was looking for a design, which we don't have yet, which my understanding is in the works with Mr. Rowe.
So maybe we weren't clear, and I was the only one who didn't understand what we were looking for, because I thought we were just looking for a commitment to a plan. And of course, at some point in that plan, there are drawings put on the table and so forth, but that could not have happened in the time we gave you, right? I mean, we gave you enough time to do what you've done, and I think the town did it, and has a plan, and maybe putting some timeline on the plan. But if we're waiting for the drawings or for an RFP, for the drawings, that ain't going to happen by the first week in September either, probably. So I'm not sure what we're expecting at what time at this point.
My understanding, and perhaps I'm wrong, but my understanding was that this commission was looking for a meeting with Mr. Rowe on the 7th, and then a design plan for the second meeting in September. So it's our intent to have our design plan done by Mr. Rowe by the second meeting in September.
Yeah, and that's what we had used the date for. That was, everything needs to be in place, lined up, moving
So it makes
forward
sense
on
that when he's
date.
doing, exactly.
Right, that's why we had picked that date. So
Yeah,
I think we have a plan that there's still 3 more weeks for the engineer now to put forth his plan of existing, what we're moving back to. And the town will have their RFP in place at that point. It's not a lot of work, so I don't think the bidding process is going to be very encumbersome.
Right.
So it should be awfully quick, and then, once it's done, 6 hours, it's done. I mean, there's not a lot of work there.
Can I ask a stupid question? How is the contractor gonna get equipment out to that location?
We have permission from Kinder Morgan to utilize their easement,
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
and we have obtained that permission.
Perfect. Because I know there's no access over town property to get equipment out
Right.
there.
No, yeah, we've got, because Kinder Morgan has the right-of-way, so they have already granted us access to that, so,
Thank you.
yeah, that was one of the first things we did. And then, of course, making sure that the engineer, any plans that the engineer agrees to, the applicant is bound by. That's what the power of attorney is for, so. Unfortunately, with vacations, it's just taking a little while to get the ball rolling, but that was my biggest question, was to make sure that Jamie was now in communications with the town manager and the land use director, so that all the parties are talking.
Yes, actually, Mr. Rowe and the town manager talked that evening. They've had subsequent conversations, and as well as with Mr. Burney.
Which has not happened up till this point.
Exactly.
Through the whole process, so now we're
Exactly.
at that point, and then we have expectations for the 7th, which I think we're pretty clear with Jamie what we were looking for, so.
Now, let me be clear. I guess I'm not clear what you're looking for on the 7th. What are you looking for on the 7th?
Presentations of, he had a couple requests that we had. One was the NOI for his violation at 101.
Okay.
And the other was the plan for remediation at 225 and 190 Electric.
So you are expecting a plan on the 7th? Because I thought you were expecting a plan at the second meeting in September, on 225
I thought he was
Pleasant.
coming back with everything on the 7th.
Okay.
And then that gave us a chance to review it. He comes back with the final approval, and away we go.
Okay, and he indicated a plan on 225 Pleasant as well? Because that wasn't my understanding, so I just.
I don't recall that either.
Because he had said a
I
couple
don't
times that he had
recall
no
that.
problems drawing it. I mean, at
Yeah,
that
he-
point, he had no problems with Dan doing the work, him doing the design, getting ready to go. I mean, I don't know why we'd given him to the 21st.
That's what we gave them to. We said,
yeah, that's
motion
what I
to
thought.
extend to the 21st. They will be back on
9/7
to
with,
file new NOI, and we all approved that.
But that was my my recollection, which isn't so great, is that whole discussion was on 101 and 190, and he did offer that he would do it for the town, but the town wasn't taking him up on it, so I don't think he made any commitments to one.
No, this is just for his two pieces.
Right.
He offered for the town,
Right.
and there have now been subsequent conversations between him and the town, because honestly, the first that I heard about that definitively, I had heard that, prior, and then there was that lapse in contact, and we weren't sure from a town perspective where the property owner stood with the remediation on the town land. At the last Conservation Commission meeting that Mr. Rowe attended, it was very clear that they were willing to do the town work. So he did have conversations with the town manager after that meeting.
Right, but at our meeting, he didn't know that the town was going to take him up on the offer, so I don't believe he made any commitments to having a plan by the 7th.
Well, he had to have the plan by the 7th, because in order for the NOI to be heard on the 21st, he has to meet the filing deadline, because I wouldn't be able to advertise it in time for the 22nd.
Okay, because the plan has to accompany the NOI submission.
For the remediation of the
For the
town land?
remediation.
Of the town land?
Well, everything. For,
Okay, I don't. I don't recall him making any commitments to the town
No,
And I will-
voted
and
on
I
the
will-
town land.
we voted on the two properties, but now the town land has been thrown into the mix. If he can, we only voted on the other two properties. If he can make the deadline for the town land, great.
I
But the
agree.
deadline for filing for the September 21st meeting would be the 7th of September.
I agree, he can make it, but he made no commitments at our meeting.
Okay, so.
Right.
And I would agree. So the issue that I'm having is.
Yeah, not the town, so he can't make a commitment, a binding commitment.
No, he can make the commitment to do the work, but the town would represent itself.
We're all over the place. What property are we talking about?
Are we going to
Yeah.
accept the town, and I believe we're.
Yeah.
we're
already
in
voted on it.
discussion.
No,
Yeah, but there was
What are
a
we
question, discussion.
what are we motioning?
We're going to allow the town to go to the 21st.
Did we extend the town's
I mean, we
remediation
did.
plan?
That's what I wanna
And we
know.
extended it to 9/22?
Okay.
9/22 is when we extended it to,
We're there.
right? I think I made the motion, right?
Yes.
So much for discussion.
I think it's the 21.
I think it's 21st, yeah.
Okay, so the town deadline is the 21st, is that correct?
That's
I just want to make sure
Come
that,
in with a physical
A
design
physical
plan.
plan.
That's the plan.
okay,
Whoever brings
thank
it
you.
in.
Somebody, please.
I'm going to further muddy the waters on this. So we're done with the town land, right?
Yep.
We voted to extend, I'm looking at my notes right now from the last meeting. We voted to extend one piece of property, 101 Pleasant Street, to September 21st. But we expected them to be back on 9/7 to kind of give us an update.
Right.
Then on 190 Electric, we suspended the fines, and then we motioned to extend till tonight. And that was approved.
Right, he was supposed to come tonight.
So they were supposed to come tonight. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt that the fact that none of us remembered, I'm not gonna hold the engineer accountable for that.
Yeah, it was extended till 8/17, that's what I have in the minutes.
Yeah.
I would recommend that I guess I don't want to make a motion until we discuss a little bit, but I would recommend that we extend the Electric Ave to the same time period as the one above, because hindsight, I think it would have been, we should have reminded him and put it on the agenda that it was actually going to be a hearing to the applicant, instead of, going through and doing some enforcement, because the engineer is trying to work with us now.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would agree. I think that makes sense to line everything up with the same dates, the same deadlines, and go forward.
Does that require,
That requires us to vote, because we
Yeah, so-
extended till tonight.
So we'll need a motion to extend the enforcement order on 190 Electric Ave until 9/21.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All right. So 190 has been extended, 225 has been extended, and 101, so they're all lined up.
Yes.
Okay. Moving forward with 189 Howard Street.
I'm expecting documentations from Mr. Thomas as far as plans and the work on the NOI
Howard
within
Street.
the next...
Jacobson's.
Oh, Jacobson's, I'm sorry. I met with actually the police chief today, because Mr. Peace and I walked the property the day after the meeting. I filed the report, outlined the areas by physical flag that they needed to work, gave them a map, did a drawing, gave them the solution to Rubik's Cube. I mean, I did everything to make it absolutely clear. They started the work, the abutters complained. Called the police came down, stopped everything in midstream. Then I get the emails from the copies of the emails from the abutter. They did this work, they made this big mess, and now the goats are jumping over the rocks, leaving out the detail that it's because they called the police, and they stopped in midstream because the police stopped work. I met with the chief yesterday. The chief's like, essentially it's doing the big circle all over again. The abutter says he wants his property cleaned up, and then when they start to clean the property, says, I don't want you on my property. So the police chief just basically called the abutter and said, the complainant, and said, we gotta stop this circle. You can't demand to have your property cleaned and then call us to throw the guy off the property when he's cleaning it.
Yeah.
So the abutter has agreed to work out a scenario where he would go in, reach over, pull the stuff out like we proposed. So I'm going at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon with the police chief to meet with the police chief, Mr. Jacobson, and the abutter, to all of us go on the same page and just get it all done. I hope.
We hope.
So if any commissioner wants to accompany me, obviously, you're more than welcome to do so.
What time now?
3 o'clock.
Where is the meeting being held?
It's being held on the property.
189
On
Howard
189
Street.
Howard Street. Kind of a replay of 2 weeks ago, Bob. Except this time, the police is involved.
I might like to see the emus again.
why are they done by the 18th?
Well, I got a nice picture of the goats. Jumped the fence and they're out in the woods there munching all the poison ivy.
Oh, that's a good thing, yeah.
Which, honestly, it's
So,
not a bad thing.
Matt, are they on schedule for September 18th to have it all done, do you think?
They were trying.
They were trying. As far as their schedule goes, I'm gonna wait till tomorrow to see if we need to recommend amending it. I don't think so.
See what happens.
But it's not their fault, and they were I mean, everybody's at their wit's end with this whole thing, and we just need to get it resolved.
Except the goats. Goats are happy.
All right, so accept the motion on 189 Howard Street to continue until September 7th.
Do we need to make a motion since it's already continued?
Well, I think we continued it to this meeting. The other ones, as you were reading, were continued till September 7th.
189, when was that continued? I thought,
29 is continued to the 9/21.
Was continued to 9/21?
That's next hearing.
Oh, okay,
9/21.
great, then I guess we don't.
and, Matt, could we add the continuation date in the minutes? So we don't get this confused again next time?
Good
I
idea.
thought I put them on there.
It just says continuation, it doesn't have the date.
No, you talk about on the agenda.
On the agenda, I'm saying on the agenda, so it's just right here, it says continued to, so we're not,
Well, no, on the agenda, you're hearing the continuation that night. That's why it says continuation.
He's just getting an update.
Yeah,
It's a
so we're just getting
continuation
an
from the
update.
previous meeting.
Okay, so we're just getting an update at
If
this point.
there was a continuation, like, I've been asked to keep these on the agenda so that we keep focused on them, so I
We don't
put
lose 'em.
continuation
Yeah.
on everything. So if we're not gonna take any action because we're waiting, we simply just don't take any action. But that's why I was, that's,
my only thought is some of these have deadlines. Like we just set 9/21 for 3 properties.
If you want, I
It
can
looks
make-
like 189, we have a deadline of 9/21 as well. So it'd be nice if we could just see this. 'cause
I could
like-
make a parenthetical reference to when the deadlines on the final actions are, absolutely.
Just because, you know, if we hadn't gone back and looked at our notes, the town would have been in violation, and we would have missed it. So it'd just be good to see those deadlines, so we're not inadvertently, you know, getting people in trouble.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy, but you don't mind if I just do it like parenthetically, just put them in
That's fine with
parentheses?
me.
Fine, yep.
That's fine.
Yep, that's perfect. All right, so meeting tomorrow at 189 Howard Street at 3 PM. 460 Lancaster Ave, you're working with Mr.
Working with
Mosso
Mr.
now.
Mosso on the plans to make sure everything is clear.
Okay. And 183 Peninsula Drive.
183 Peninsula Drive with the stone dust, it's all cleaned up. He ruined 2 shop vacs doing it, but it's all cleaned up.
Saw that.
I mean, I went out there and looked at it on Monday. It looks beautiful. He did absolutely everything we asked him to do. And then he was sure to chuckle and tell me that he ruined 2 shop vacs in the process. But he did what he was supposed to do. As far as I'm concerned, that issue's resolved.
So can we close that out? What do we have to do to close it out? Do we have to?
You don't have to, you can vote to.
Well, didn't he still have to register?
He's gonna have to get a certificate of
the-
compliance anyway.
Yeah, he,
And also that he hadn't filed it with he hadn't filed it on
The registry of
The
deeds?
order of conditions
Yeah, I know,
hadn't
I've
been
already told him
filed.
that he has to correct that.
so he has to file it first before we can,
Issuing a certificate of compliance
Right.
until we.
Well, we can't issue a certificate of compliance.
Not until he records it,
Correct.
can't issue it.
But as far as the enforcement goes, it sounds like the enforcement that we were concerned about, the
yeah,
stone
he's
dust.
taking care of the
is
work
taken
that we
care of.
asked him to do. He still
So I think
has to
he's-
file the order of conditions
Yeah.
with the registry of deeds, so that then, because the work legally can't take place without it being filed. And then he can request for a certificate of compliance.
Now, I have a general question, right? So one thing is, I still want to recommend that we take this particular enforcement on the property off, and I think we should vote on that tonight. I don't, if we need to. But as far as the because he hasn't registered with the Registry of Deeds, you're supposed to, but we know from other landowners that he doesn't really need to, because he can sell his property, and it's not going to be an issue until the new homeowner comes in, files with us, and we say, hey, you never closed this out, you didn't get a certificate of compliance, you can't do any work.
Right.
So the new homeowner is going to be kind of stuck. Is there anything we can do to try to help that new future homeowner out?
Actually,
Originally, we filed the order of conditions with the registry of deeds. That way there, we knew that they were all filed, which at some point was overturned, and it became the burden of the applicant. I don't know how we
that was
can,
because of the issue that happened in 2005.
Yeah.
okay, yes.
The office issue, there was an office issue.
Yeah,
Okay, let me give you a brief explanation on this. The way I'm working it now in the office, I issue an order of conditions, a certificate of compliance, any recordable document. Okay? There is a section in my office on a shelf where those files stay. Okay? The second I get a building permit or any type of permit that crosses my desk, if that file is still on that shelf and there's been no recording, I don't sign off on it. Once a week, I take the unrecorded files, send an email to that applicant and say, I still don't have your recorded order, okay? Or I don't have your recorded certificate. So to date, since I started in January, the only unrecorded item we have right now is one certificate of compliance for 40 Hemlock, and the owner just simply hasn't responded to me. Everything else that we've issued, that we've signed off on for orders of conditions have been recorded. So what happens is, if the owner goes to sell the property, okay, it shows up in a title search.
But this one won't, because he never recorded it with the deeds to begin with.
Right, but he's not selling his property anymore.
A, he's not selling his property, and B, it's like,
Okay.
we can't clean up everything from the rear. We're doing it right now, and I think that's all we can ask.
Well, I'm gonna have him record his order. His order's actually still valid because of the Permit Extension Act.
I guess my question is, do we have any authority to force people to record with the registry?
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
So,
The way I would work it is if within a month, if I don't get those recordings, I then send them an email saying, if I don't get something within 7 days, I'm bringing your order back to the Conservation Commission for revoking.
Okay. All right.
That
just wanted to
hasn't
check.
happened yet.
Okay. And I didn't know what our, if we had any plan, if.
Right, and that's not really because I want to
It's never
revoke the
happened.
orders,
I don't
it's
want to
because
revoke
we want to
orders.
shake them up.
I would just point out that Matt went through all this at the last meeting, and I liked it then, and I like it now.
Yeah, I think the new system that you just discussed, and you, like you said, you talked about that at the last meeting. I'm just talking about for people that are beyond that,
I
there might
think
be some
unfortunately,
files.
there's probably a lot of them out there that
Yeah.
are not recorded.
Yeah, after the meeting, I can go over some of the issues that we've had, things that I wouldn't be at liberty to discuss in a public forum without violating someone's rights.
Well, yeah, I can think of a couple examples where somebody bought a home, and it wasn't registered, so it didn't get captured on the title. And, they came in to file an RDA or an NOI with us, and we said, hey, wait a second, you didn't ever close out this last one, and the new homeowner's sitting there scratching their head.
And I think that we just need to be willing to work with those people going forward,
That's all I'm
realizing that
bringing
there
up.
were issues in the
It's
past.
just, I'm seeing one of those, a potential, that same cycle happen in this particular property. If he sold it and he didn't register it, I was just wondering if there's anything we could do now to help out that future.
we taken a
That's all, that's my only
proactive-
question.
And
I mean, it's just
totally-
working with the applicants at that point, so.
Totally
Okay.
understand where you're coming from on that. Totally relate to it.
All right, so moving forward, we have an extension permit application for 178 Peninsula Drive.
Mr. Chairman, one of the reasons that I was encouraging us to capture these things is because things fall off the table.
Okay.
And I've got a list of at least 4 items that I believe there's either, and I know enforcement order may be something strong, but there have been violations that have not been closed out.
Okay.
So this is what
Bring them
concerns
up.
me, is, we're tracking some, but we're not tracking all.
Want to bring them up?
Hey, Carl, if I could just interrupt you
Yeah,
before you go on.
absolutely.
Do we need to vote on 183 Peninsula to close it out, since he did at least clean up the enforcement issue? Do we need to take any action on that before we move on?
He's got to come to us. doesn't he?
Well, honestly, I think we can take care of it all at once with the certificate of compliance.
Yeah, let me just get him to file his order, come in for the certificate, and we'll do it all at once.
Okay.
I mean, it's,
Sorry, Carl.
So, again, I have at least 4 here, and when we had this last time, people kept throwing out things that I hadn't heard of either. And the key thing is, I think, to make sure that we have clarity on where we are in the process, and does not their applicant, whatever, the parties, do
let's
they
get
know
them
what's
out on the
expected?
table so we can discuss them.
Ruth Street, I don't know the number, but you know the property well.
7.
Thank you.
what was the violation on that?
That's the
beach with the.
Yeah, yellow house with the beach. The beach is still a beach, and they didn't get a blade of grass on it.
Okay, so I mean, they
But
came
it was-
before us and were instructed what to do, so they have not done what they were instructed.
Well, but this is really what I'm trying to get at. Can someone give me a piece of paper that clearly tells them what they're supposed to do and when they're supposed to do it by?
Okay.
Because I don't think we're clear enough with people with what their violation is and what our expectations are.
Okay, so we've got Ruth Street, what's the
Well,
next?
on Ruth Street, we gave him a determination. We spelled it out on the determination, and it was to start right at that moment. So there is a document, it was the very ruling that we issued them.
But I know the rule, and you're in violation and so forth. It doesn't say, because I remember when they came to the meeting, I think it's the one I watched on TV maybe, and I think it was very unclear what we expect from them and when we expect it. I mean, I heard comments like, well, you got 3 years. So I think they left here thinking, we'll think about this again in 2.5 years from now. So I don't know that there's a timeline. Is in the document you're talking about, is there a clear expectation of what that's supposed to look like after and when it's supposed to happen?
Well, they were supposed to start immediately, as far as letting it grow in and not letting it.
It's not nothing.
Okay, well, then if they're not doing anything, then...
My last observation, which was probably a week and a half ago, it appears that the beach is still in use. So because it's in use and gets disturbed all the time, you're not seeing a lot of growth, except you might be seeing maybe on 10% on the edge, you might be seeing some grass come up. So that's progress I've seen, which isn't substantial.
Yeah, and I thought I heard that, and maybe it was the document you're talking about, that there's supposed to be active things going on, like looming and planting, and, it's supposed to be something you can see. I don't know what it was, but...
The applicants, the new homeowners, were not given any instruction as to what needed to be done when they left.
That's my point.
That was, yes, the original violation was given to the past owner. So at this point, we saw that the work was done. We certified that it had been seeded. If it hasn't taken place, we still have to follow up with the landowner. If you're telling us that it hasn't taken place, then we'll
Certainly
instruct
hasn't been
Matt.
seeded, unless they poured seed on the sand.
All right, Matt. So
Yeah, actually, I was looking at that file this morning.
So if you
when I was
follow
doing
up-
enforcement tracking.
All right, just to move forward,
No,
where it's
there
kind of
actually
Sure,
was...
every one of these, but if they just plain showed up on the list next meeting, I'd be happy.
Well, actually, there is more. As Commissioner Bertram would say, I'm about to cloudy the waters even more.
Can I get through my other three?
Yeah, let's go one step at a time. So
Maybe
at
it's
this
one of them
point,
more,
for
I don't know.
7 Ruth Street, if you
338
can,
Sunset?
if you can follow up with them, Matt.
Yeah, there was a couple of other things that were supposed to
All
do.
right, so let one at a time. So 7 Ruth Street was a violation. It was taken care of last year by the original owner. The new owners were not made aware when they were here of continuing that. I know we had talked about weed whacking the grass as it came up. So if you can follow up, just to explain to them in writing and just make sure there's a copy in the file of what is needed to be done to remediate that violation. 338, Carl?
338 Sunset.
All right, at this point, it's no longer a violation, it was just, he was informed that the wall that he put in there couldn't go there and had to come out, and he agreed to that. So he's still under an
But we-
active notice of intent.
But there are also trees.
Yes, and he
So,
said he would replace those
I think we need a
at the
document, I think we
construction.
need a document. I think there's too much verbal of what to do and not to do. I mean, how many trees is he supposed to replace? Does anybody
On
know?
his notice of intent. I mean, it told him what trees could come out on his notice of intent. mean, he had
I don't
the
think
plan
we know,
before
I
us.
don't think we know how many trees we expect him to put back in the ground.
I can verify that at 338 Sunset, with the water down, the wall still looks really nice.
Oh, and we had told him that once the drawdown occurred, he had asked to wait till the drawdown had occurred for the wall to come out.
And
So-
I think Carl's bringing up a good point, that it would be nice if we could just send like a quick one-page letter saying, you know, here's the infraction, here's what we agreed upon on the remediation plan, and, you know, this is when we expect it. And really, I agree, having a due date is pretty important, because if not, who's to say that they're going too slow or too fast? So I think you're right, that we do need to kind of clean this up, and that's a good way where we can store that file. We have just a quick, brief letter that we can keep track of.
We need a tickle file.
Well, yeah, actually, it's, again, I actually sent an email to the design engineer asking for updates on the timelines this morning.
Oh, good.
For 338
Good.
Sunset.
So we could, if it was on the list, you could just reported that and we'd be good, but I'm still not. So the next one would be 701 Reservoir. And the only reason I remember it was reviewing these old minutes, is that there were actions that I don't think ever happened. So according to the minutes, we were going to follow up with them. We weren't happy with just, you know, putting a sign up about weeds. There was a recommendation to maybe have a...
I've been sending periodic communications out to the party at 701 Reservoir, asking for what was agreed to, the summary plan. I still haven't received the document. I
So
keep
that- so
asking
this commission
for
should
it.
know, that. I mean, we should know that. We should, there's too much goes on behind, and so we think there's nothing going on, and you're doing a lot of stuff, right? So I think in order for us all to be part of it, we need to know those things. And if it was on the list, you would give us that update. Now, the last minutes that we looked at, it was reported that, I forget the engineer's name, was working on a plan. We were waiting for the plan, an engineer. The 11:18 minutes referred, I'm sorry, the 12:2 minutes referred to a particular engineer, not the homeowner, but a particular engineer who was working on the plan. I don't know what happened to that. So, again, so
And
that's
what
just
was the-
another one.
and what was the
Yeah.
fourth one?
Yeah, so we'll just follow
Fourth one, just for completeness and not to show any prejudice, and the town land should be on this list. We have an enforcement order against the town.
I agree that we should, yeah, because I think we had decided last meeting that we would put all the enforcement.
And they
orders
would
on the list.
remain on there, they would be pinned, they're pinned to the agenda until they're taken care of. So at this point, we're adding those to the list. So Ruth Street, you're gonna contact Sunset Lane, just come up with a one-page narrative on what we had noticed during the project that needs to be remediated during the timeframe of the NOI. You're gonna review 701 Reservoir and give us an update. And 225 Pleasant, you're just gonna add, make sure that the 5 that we have on there stay.
And
One
183
other one that's
Peninsula's
still
gonna come
missing
off.
is,
183
honestly,
Hemlock.
183 Peninsula should stay there until it's been recorded.
Okay.
Because it's still in violation. And I think we had a 183 Hemlock, is that Thomas?
Yeah, his engineer's in the middle of finalizing those drawings.
Okay, well, let's just add them to the list until such time. Yeah, well, then we had built the enforcement list, unfortunately, it just wasn't complete.
Yeah.
So now we're adding to complete it.
Wasn't 178 also on our enforcement list? Because isn't that the one where the erosion controls have totally failed?
No, it hasn't, the erosion controls are down, but there's no erosion events happening. Mr. Patnode is actually mobilizing to fix the erosion control areas. I've spoken to the property owner last week, and we have an extension permit for the order of conditions on our docket for this evening.
Right.
And there's also, when I reviewed the file, I discovered, again, going back to what Mr. Peace and I were discussing earlier, that order was also not recorded. And when I contacted the property owner about the original order, they couldn't find it. So I've got a duplicate ready for you guys to sign. It doesn't change any expiration dates, it's just a duplicate order along with the extension. So if you grant the extension and the duplicate order would both be recorded at the same time, and I've already told the property owner that nothing else would happen on the property if I didn't have those documents back from the recording within a week.
What was 178 Peninsula Drive?
That was
Just
where they
refresh.
graded out.
They took out that old house that had the tree growing through it,
Oh, yeah, okay.
and now it's basically a gravelled lot.
And they tore into the embankment big
And
time.
they cut down oak trees that were this big around, and were sticking out over the lake.
Right. and they-
Actually, what they were going to do was they were going to put in a retaining wall that was approved under an order of conditions by the prior commission. But when they went in and did the digging for the retaining wall, they discovered a foundation of a prior retaining wall under the bottom of the water. So I went out, looked at it and said, and we came to agreement, no wall. So they eliminated the wall. They're going to leave that area basically just the natural bottom. The only thing that's happened is there's actually been some shoreline that's been retained and some land underwater that's been gained because they pulled stuff back. The area, I've already informed the property owner, he needed to put the hay bales back up or lumen seed, more lumen seed. Property owner, as of last week, has elected to put the hay bales back up. Mr. Patton is going to be out to put the contractor to put that stuff back up, and they have another week to do that, because I gave them 2 weeks to get that done, because there's no imminent erosion threat from that property.
Matt, if I could ask a question, did they exceed the permission given by the previous commission? Because it's hard to believe that they would allow them to tear up that embankment to that degree, essentially rebuild an entire beach, and allow that tree to come down like that. Is all that spelled out and it was approved by the prior commission?
Yes.
Wow.
That was a very elaborate retaining structure that was allowed to be put in there.
And right now, there've been blocks hanging out there for a couple of years at least now. There's been a no apparent work. Why in the world would we ever extend the permit? I think we pull the permit and we tell them to rejuvenate the entire area and bring it back to where it was before.
I mean, it's their property, they have a right to do what they wish and develop as long as they're within the law. They're within the law, they're within their order. There's no reason to deny the permit respectfully, I disagree. I think you're creating an issue.
Why would we extend it?
Why would we not extend it?
My recommendation's for a 3-year extension and for the recording of that with this order of conditions. I mean, that's my recommendation, based on my experience with this property. If you guys don't want to go along with it, that's fine. I'll do whatever you want.
He allowed it to go into disrepair. He's done nothing, right? We're coming up with this, oh, we found another wall. What do we do about this? Do they come back and talk to us about it? Meantime...
Yeah, they talked to our agent about it.
Yeah, okay, but meantime, the thing's been eroding. Nothing's happened. Where's the activity?
Yeah, I think that there does need to be some remediation done at the site. I mean, I personally don't have a problem with extending the permit. They're gonna do exactly what is listed on the plan. If they need to change the plan at all, they'd have to come back before us. But I do think prior to extending the permit that the area does need to be at least loamed and seeded. Yeah, because it's, I mean, it's been long-term at this point, so.
I agree. And those hay bales, last year they got knocked over, this year they were knocked over. I mean, they set them up and they forget it. They don't, and I think they actually set beach chairs up and they're walking over them and they're kind of pushing them down so they can still enjoy the lake. It is definitely an erosion issue. But it's clearly an erosion issue.
I recognize Ms. Bertram here. She's got firsthand experience.
Yeah, no, and I don't think we have any
So why would
argument as far as that goes.
When does his permit run out?
Next month.
Would it be appropriate at this time to call them back in and have a conversation with them at a meeting?
I agree. I think the applicant should come in and formally request the extension.
If they want to come in and request an extension, they can come in, they can talk to us, we can sit down, agree on what needs to be done before we grant an extension. I mean, do we have the time to do that now? Because, I mean...
They already asked for the extension.
Well, they've asked for the extension, they've asked for it in writing. I mean, we don't have jurisdiction to make them come back in.
Well, we don't have to approve the extension.
Well, we certainly don't, but, I mean...
We could...
I don't think they'll have a problem coming in. We come in, have a discussion with them. I personally would rather have them loom and seed the area than continue to put the hay bales up.
Could we also schedule a site visit prior to that meeting? Because I haven't been out on that site.
Yes.
Sandy Hill, no trees.
I know where it is.
Gravel Hill, yeah.
Paula Bertram, 312 Townsend Harbor Road. I live on the lake. I've seen this property as last week I was out on the boat. I have to say, from an erosion control perspective, it's a huge concern. The silt fences are almost in the lake, the hay bales are out, as was noted by a commissioner, there's lawn chairs in the sand is washing into the water, there's no protection for that area. And all of the vegetation was removed off the slope, and literally, I would respectfully disagree that there's not an erosion control concern, because I believe there's a lot of silt and sedimentation coming into the lake from that property. And I would urge you to do a site visit, and before you extend an extension, to require some stabilization of that slope. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if we could ask Matt, if you could send us a copy of what that previous commission approved, I'd love to see that.
It's probably easier just to go up to the office, because we don't have it in electronic form. So, yeah, just go up to the office to see it.
Yeah, it was before.
Having had experience with the previous commission, I'll tell you what.
We can't
they
scan
would
that in?
never have allowed anything like that.
Not a D size.
It's not a plan that big. I don't have that kind of equipment.
Mr. Chairman?
Wish I did.
I do. I can scan it in. A D size? Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I've lost track of the timing. What, if we don't approve this tonight, does something bad happen?
No.
Okay, so we can decide at the next meeting, and they can come or not.
It's still, when's it, do you know when?
They put the request in writing, so they've covered themselves.
Yeah, that's fine. So, but we can make a decision at the next meeting.
Have them come in and talk to them.
It's not expired prior to then?
No.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Just make sure.
It expires at the end of September, I believe it was.
Okay. Yeah, no, because we definitely need to at least get it remediated and cleaned up, so we don't have the erosion issues.
So today, they really have
They tore the house down in anticipation of rebuilding something, and they're between tearing down and rebuilding. And it's just a vacant
As far
lot.
as they got, and then it's been fallow for 3 years.
Exactly,
and Gone
yes.
to disrepair because they haven't maintained erosion control.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Do
just
they- Matt, I
basically
don't
all
know if you
open
know this or not,
gravel.
But do they have a valid building permit for a structure to go back on the site yet?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Is that something you can check on by the next meeting? Because if they don't have a building permit, and, I mean,
They really don't.
Well, generally, you're not gonna have a building permit for our application anyways, because they're just
Oh, I'm
getting
just
a
curious as
foundation
to-
opening. That's all they're getting.
Why was that lot clear cut in the first place? I mean, there's no vegetation on that entire lot. I'm just curious why that was
They
done.
have to look at what was approved.
Yeah, I guess I'd really
Plan.
like to see.
That was one of that house caught on fire. It was a tear down rebuild, and they said, let's just cut these nasty old trees and get them out of the way, and everybody said, yeah, okay.
Yeah, because this is one that has come up repeatedly, and we kind of say they have conditions, they have erosion control. And I know there's a couple of us that live on the lake that, I mean, it's an eyesore. You can't miss it when you drive out in the lake. It's in the biggest cove, and it's just,
Okay,
it's
so
a
we'll-
clear violation.
It's naked grass.
So what we'll do is, if you can have the application when we go on our sidewalk. Any other enforcements? No? As far as we know, that'll be a complete list? Okay.
That was actually the extension permit on a new business, I think, right?
Well, I was trying to get the enforcements done
Right.
first, and then Jack moved forward with the extension permit, so.
Yeah, I guess
Well,
it's
I
the,
guess those get it been missing
Yeah,
out
so-
of the
Okay.
ongoing continuing business, that's all I.
yeah. So I would just request by the next meeting that maybe, give Matt some time to just go
Have an
see if
update
there's
on
any,
these.
if there's any other enforcements that we've missed on this list that he's aware of.
Yep. Yeah, and this is only his third full-time day, so. We're not giving him too much to do.
Day 3.
All right, extension permit, so we've continued that until September 7th. And ask that the applicants come forth. Election of officers.
Yay. Can I say, make my statement, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
It is,
Into my,
this is going to be important. This is going to be, it is with a great pleasure that I say, I would like to step back as vice chairman of this austere group, and primarily for two different reasons. When I initially took the position, I really feel strongly that officers should be rotating. I think Rob Bowen set that concept in this town with regard to rotating selectmen, and we've seen it work beautifully. We've also seen it when all of a sudden the officers remain in the position too long, and the things that don't happen or the new ideas. So I'm finishing up 2 years in this role, and I think, as a matter of principle, I should be stepping back. Additionally, my personal life has changed such that between working stormwater and my personal life, I really can't do a good job at supporting our chairman, and so I'm recognizing that as well. But on the other hand, while I feel strongly that we should be changing officers every couple of years, there's a reality associated with deferring to a group that is relatively new to someone who is very knowledgeable, has been on this board for 1,500 years. And
Gray hairs are starting to show, huh?
and I really do support the existing chairman staying in that position for as long as feasible and practicable. But I would like to ask that I be allowed to step back.
All right, so with that, I guess I'll accept a nomination for vice chair.
Well, first we nominate chair, do we?
Well, you were the one that
I
stepped down.
Okay, I'll
so-
step down.
No.
Okay, I would like
You
to
can wait-
nominate
You can
anybody.
wait to step down, so.
Yeah, there you go. I would nominate anybody that'll put their hand up.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes.
think we should elect chairman before we elect.
yeah,
Okay.
I agree.
I'll accept nominations for chairman.
I would nominate Richard Bursch for chairman.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any other nominations?
Unless somebody else wants to do it.
Please. All right, we have a motion and a second. No other nominations. So we'll take a vote on the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. And moving forward, I'll accept nominations for vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Todd.
We have a nomination. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other nominations for vice chair? All those in favor of Todd Dwyer for vice chair, say aye. Aye. And it seems like commissions have been moving forward with a clerk position, which is something that we don't currently have, and we discussed at our last meeting. So at this point, I'll accept nominations for clerk.
Mr. Chair, should we review the responsibilities of the
Matt,
clerk?
you want to review this, the responsibilities of the clerk?
The clerk essentially would work with me as far as doing the initial review of the minutes, and then after that, it would be disseminated to the commission as a draft. In the event of my absence due to an illness, getting hit by a bus or whatever, the clerk would actually then step in and take the minutes. The clerk would also run the commission in the event of the absence of the chair and the vice chair.
I know that there are two people that really spend a lot of time reviewing the minutes right now. I know that Carl and
Tom?
I'm having a senior moment. Tom, review the minutes like...
Their 40s now.
I know.
Wow.
And it's 10:15, it's after my bedtime. Yeah, so I think that if one of those two guys would be willing to do it, I think that, they're already sort of doing that job right now. But
I nominate Carl.
We have a nomination and a second for Carl Luck. Do we have any other nominations for clerk?
Sorry, Carl.
All those in favor of Carl Luck for clerk, say aye. Aye. All right.
I'll do it next year.
I'll remember that.
All right, moving forward with old business regulatory review, which Jack had brought up.
I think we should have a third meeting this month, and
Let's go over and start working through them.
At least come up with a plan on how we want to start going through them, and then...
If you want, I could, what am I doing?
So we're proposing a meeting on August 30th?
Sure.
Or 31st, I guess it would be the 31st. All right, so August 31st for the purpose of regulatory review.
Just so you guys know, I don't think I'll be able to attend that meeting,
Okay.
but I'll send my comments to the chair and the agent prior to the meeting,
Okay.
because I do have some comments on that. It's my fiance's birthday, so I think if I go to a meeting, she's gonna be a little upset.
Oop, don't want that.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll plan a meeting on the 31st, which will be at the Ritter Land Use Building.
Well, if you came and brought her...
Any documents to sign?
I don't think that's gonna work.
Yes, I have the, I know I sent you guys a PDF on this, I don't know if you had a chance to review it, but here's two original copies of the order of conditions for the 200 Reservoir Road Lot 5. And yes, it did incorporate your condition about the canopy.
Okay, anything else?
One thing with the regulations, what do we, should we at least kind of make a list of what we want to tackle first?
I think that's what we're gonna do then.
That's the plan at this meeting? Okay.
Yeah, how we're gonna go about doing it.
And we are going to get a policy section too, right, that we can start?
Well, we can talk about whatever you wanna talk about, Jack.
why don't we do regulations before we talk about policy?
Well, there's a couple of easy ones.
Well,
that we can
and
say.
it's not that easy, because we have to come up with the regulation, then we have to have two televised hearings on the regulation before we can vote on the regulation, so it is not a slam dunk process by any stretch of the imagination, so there'll be plenty of opportunity. Hi, Phyllis.
Richard says hi. We're still going. Getting near the end, though. Thank you. Okay.
Well, my wife texts me, she doesn't call me.
Phyllis wanted everybody to know.
Is Phyllis watching?
No. She just knows I'm not there.
Mine gave up.
She drove up here, I tell you, that last meeting.
To pull you out?
She drove up. Oh, she thought I was in a ditch somewhere.
Oh, jeez.
All right, and I guess that was all for signatures. Approval of minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review the November 4th, 18th, December 2nd?
Yes.
And we got our comments into Matt? Or do we have comments to make?
I sent comments in on the May 4th.
Okay.
I have a question for Matt, though, general.
Why does
Well,
it
let's-
say through? It says December 2nd, 2015 through May 4th. Didn't we already do a
I think
bunch?
that's a hyphen. I don't think it's through, I think it's December 2nd and then May 4th and August 3rd. Let's start with the November 4th. At this point, are there any other additions, clerical errors, comments for November 4th minutes? I'll accept the motion to approve the November 4th minutes.
So moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of approving the November 4th minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, sorry, I abstained.
Okay. Bob abstains. November 18th, has everybody had a chance to read and review the November 18th minutes?
I did, the only comment I have.
Into the mic.
Oh, sorry. Thanks, Jack. The only comment I had, nothing about the minutes themselves, but there were, in those minutes, there was approval of prior minutes with amendments. And the prior minutes are on the website, but none of the amendments are there. And I have a question, I hope I misunderstood, Matt, something you sent out today, but I got the impression from one of your emails that you weren't intending to actually update minutes, but would refer to the tapes?
No, the minutes were updated.
Okay.
I just didn't list what the amendments were. A lot of, actually, most people I know, when they write minutes from the previous meeting, they don't write exactly what every single correction was. They just say minutes approved as amended.
Yeah.
And the amendments are either written down on a separate note, or they're kept in the recordings. In this case, when you guys went through all those minutes, you gave me a list, which I scribbled in my notebook on what you wanted corrected. I made all of those corrections, but everything you asked for in the corrections is on the recording of the meeting, the one that we save in perpetuity. So you can refer back to those, but when I listed, as you saw from the minutes I sent you, it says January 6th, Commissioner Bertram moved to approve, Commissioner Jones seconded, all approved of the motion except for Bob Peace abstained. Or, like, for example, on 217, you made a couple of minor corrections and it said, Commission, as amended, Commissioner Jones moved to approve, Commissioner Bertram seconded, all approved of the motion except for Bob Peace, who abstained.
So to be clear, those minutes have been adjusted and those amendments are now in the minutes?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So my only comment on the 11:18 minutes is that it references changes, amendments, approval of minutes, prior minutes, and those changes are not in the prior minutes. They're posted on the town website, but the changes are not there.
Okay, I had nothing to do with those minutes, so I don't even know what you're talking about.
Well, that's why I'm telling you, so you can
So
go
I think what he's saying is we gotta go back to 11:18, look at the minutes that we
Can you print out
amended.
the minutes, Carl, that you have a question on?
And update
we
the
can-
previous minutes.
We can reconsider.
Nothing wrong with the 11:18 minutes. It's the
that
minutes.
aren't amended properly.
In that meeting, we made adjustments to previous minutes.
I don't know, we have to reconsider them, because we have in 11:18 minutes, we have for 10:7 and 10:28 were approved.
Okay.
Those two are on the website, but they don't include the updates.
Okay.
So we've already approved those minutes to be changed, it just hasn't been done.
Okay, can we get the updates?
Yes, it's 10:7 and 10:18, 10:28. And the amendments are in the only reason I know is because the minutes, the 11:18 minutes very clearly say what those amendments should be.
All right.
It doesn't just say as amended, it says Tom had a couple of comments, I had a couple of comments, and they should be in the...
For action items,
minutes.
update the changes to the October,
Update 10:7 and 10:28.
October
as
7th
referenced
and
in the-
October 28th,
referenced in
as
the-
referenced in the 11:18
11:18.
minutes.
Perfect.
Yeah, I just picked it.
You know what your mother tells you.
Cal, look for those, see what I can find.
Just wipe it off.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have no other comments on 1118. They were fine.
Okay. So I'll accept a motion to approve the 11:18 minutes.
So moved.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye. Aye. Moving forward with the December 2nd minutes. Everybody had a chance to review.
Yes.
All right, I'll accept a motion to approve the December 2nd minutes.
I move we approve this
We
December
have
2nd.
a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second by Todd. All those in favor, any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Moving forward, has everybody had a chance to review and make comments on the May 4th minutes? Any other comments on the May 4th minutes?
My only comment is, I think we're going in too much detail with the whole discussion. I mean, the whole discussion of he said this, they said that.
I agree.
Is there, and it's just, I think it's too much.
On May 4th?
I don't think we should change it, but I think going forward, we shouldn't have that level of detail.
Yeah, I agree, and I think we talked about that last meeting too, that we're gonna try to dial back and capture less discussion and just
Okay,
get the pertinent
well,
points.
so I'll accept the motion for the May 4th, to approve the May 4th minutes.
So moved.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor of approval of the May 4th minutes, say aye.
Aye. Seconded. I didn't hear a second.
I must have.
Yeah, I think it was Tom and Jack. All right, so the August 3rd were the first ones that Matt has started in the newer format, and is that format you're suggesting less?
The August
3rd. So our last hearing was the new format that Matt was using.
I didn't,
for
those just
minutes.
came out this afternoon, I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't-
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to review
I
those.
enjoyed
All right.
it. I thought it was good. I
Good chance
just
to
would
look at
hope that you...
All right, so-
I'm John Rabbit, Jamie, some...
Great, so
Yeah.
at this point, we'll table the August 3rd minutes until the next hearing for approval.
But the comment on that one I would like to make, and I talked to Matt a little bit, is I certainly support using the initials for the commissioners and Matt, but I think for the people coming to the meeting, we should use their names, because it gets extremely, it looks like you're reading something from the government, it's just initial, and I lose track of who the heck's talking and which JR it is.
I agree with Carl, and I like that he sends them in Word, and I really think it would be, although now we have a clerk, so, but if you take and you go through the minutes, you can track changes, and you just make the changes.
Yeah, actually, I like that. When you guys were doing that with the other minutes, like Carl and Tom were doing that, I really liked that. That was
I
so
really
helpful.
think It's helpful to him, it makes your job easier, and it's clear to everyone, and I just...
Now, you know what, that's an awesome, I hope you guys do that in the future.
Because
because I really like that.
I actually started in on Carl's minutes.
Okay.
Using track changes on.
So we'll try sending out the next set of minutes in Word form, and then everybody make their comments from there.
Good.
All right, moving forward, committee reports.
Just real quick on the minutes. Matt, I know you just got started full-time today, but moving forward, could we try to target, let's say like the Friday after the meeting? To have like that afternoon?
Well, that would be
with it?
great because Fridays were closed. So I'll be more than happy to do it on Fridays.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny you should say that because I was looking all this stuff over. I had so much that I had to.
I know you're just getting in the swing of things.
But what I'm saying is, I was actually looking at the scheduling, and I was getting them out like the Monday or Tuesday after the meeting, so you have at least a week to review them.
Yeah, that works good, because that way you, yeah.
Okay. Committee reports, Holman Street. Anything to report on
Sorry,
Lane?
Lane Street, the Lane property, I get,
Yep, no problem. Actually, I think that was you and Bob.
yeah, committee report, so I wanted to, I want to try to start doing some site work out there. I know they reclaimed some of the beams from the gymnasium, from the Lunenburg High School, and that's what we're going to make our bridge out of.
No kidding,
Instead
that's
of
cool.
telephone poles, and those should be in the parking lot.
They are.
My dad moved those down there with, I know he had the Pals did it.
Yeah.
He went down there, he saw both Pals standing outside, he said, hey, I want some of those beams, and they said, you're kidding me, right? He said, nope, and they were there the next day.
What are the beams made, are they I-beams?
Steel.
They're steel beams.
Not I-beams.
No.
They're
No,
trusses.
they're
Okay.
Trusses, yeah.
steel
They're
trusses.
steel trusses.
Yeah.
They're a little bent
Yeah.
because they're basically demolition materials.
Yeah.
But I still think, I think we're good, but I'm just a little concerned that they're a little slightly damaged.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the picture of them.
Okay. Well, that's
If
great.
anybody's curious.
They'll certainly be at least as strong as telephone poles.
Yep. Great. How many sections did you get?
Just two. Four?
Okay,
Four?
great. So two bridges worth.
I'm looking at the picture, so I don't.
Great. All right.
I think that's one bridge's worth.
One big bridge?
Yeah, it'll be for the
Okay,
the
that's the
main
one over the
bridge.
Mulpus.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you had a bunch of other footbridges.
And those will be
planned in
telephone
there, too.
poles.
Those will still be the telephone
And
poles.
most of the telephone poles are down there. Some are still sitting on, two-way at, Brett Ramsden's shop.
Okay, great.
I
had the hunt board.
So I don't know exactly when I'll be available, but I really want to try to get out there, in September. So as soon as we pick a date, Bob, I know you were busy this month too. We can talk again and try to get that going. It'll be a little bit cooler too.
All right. Agents report. You have a report on Lot 5 Reservoir Road?
Yeah, did you guys read the report I did in the cloud?
That wasn't the email you sent was the hearing we had, right? Yeah.
No, on Lot 5.
Okay.
I did an inspection report.
I read
Is that
it.
the
I don't
house
remember what it
that's
said.
The
being
one
built?
that's built.
Okay.
What was happening is that the guy that bought the house, really, really nice guy, wanted clarification on the inner riparian zone and the restrictions and the no-touch zone and the no-structure zone. And the more I talked to him about it, the more I felt like I was kind of being maneuvered into saying, yeah, you can expand all of your lawn through the riparian zone into the 50-foot no-structure zone, no problem. So rather than continuing to get circular, I just said, you know what? Because he even tried to have me do a conference call with him and the builder so we could all be on the same page. So I said, you know what, okay, rather than try all this conference call and stuff over the phone, we're going on site, we're going with the plans, we're going with the builder, we're going with the owner, we're going with the contractor, we're all gonna talk. Brought the plans, showed him what the restriction was, long and the short of it, where the area was, there was an area of piled like stumps, not stumps, but, trunks and branches and all of that is basically nothing but kindling thanks to this drought. Nothing, no offshoots grew out of it. So he had that stuff piled up and was trying to, it felt to me like he wanted me to tell him it was okay to put a lawn in there, and I just said, no, you're gonna take that stuff, you're gonna chip it, you're gonna spread it around, let the moisture hit it, and the trees will regenerate. The only area that he's adding any grass to is where he's pulling up the hay bales and silt fence from and smoothing that little area out and adding grass, and that's all you can do. Made it very clear, made clear to the plans, clear to him, clear to the builder, filed a report with you guys so that you had a record of it immediately as to what I gave him for his limits, so.
Was that one of the ones going back that we asked them to demarcate any areas, or was that?
Yes, yeah,
There's
that was one of the
demarcated.
9, yeah.
There's stakes out there.
No, I know, but some sort of permanent demarcation. I know we've gone back and forth with this, but was that one of the ones that we?
On that lot, no, I didn't see a
Okay.
condition for permanent demarcation on that particular lot.
Okay.
But there are stakes out there.
Okay.
I thought we did every lot.
I don't think we did every lot.
Yeah, I thought we did, because we continued to say yes and Tom continued to say no.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd like to just.
So there was
double check
demarcation,
it.
yeah, I'm pretty sure it was demarcation on all of them.
Conditions.
Yep,
I mean, that lot hasn't closed yet.
Mhm.
Mr. Coivier's gonna be out there for quite a while.
yeah.
As a matter of fact, he's having his hearing for the stormwater permits for all 9 lots.
Mm-hmm.
And until he gets his permit, no
Can't
other
close
houses are being
anyways.
signed off on,
Yep.
so.
Okay,
And also, let me just type this note. Let's see, we had that one, and there was something else I was gonna tell you, and now I just lost track.
okay.
Okay, just keep
I'll
going,
keep
I guess.
thinking. All right, action items, we had the power of attorney form, which you got out to Jamie Rowe.
Yep,
Hamburg Pearl Street, she did provide the receipt.
yes,
That's
she
a
did.
storm
She's all
scepter on
set.
Pearl Street, that there's a maintenance plan every 2 years, they have to have that vacuumed out, and that was done in 2015. Tom's gonna work with Matt to get the Walks in the Woods updated. It's on the website, but it's the old calendar. So I think there was one date you were changing?
Well,
I'm not changing the date, I'm just gonna change the location.
Location, I'm sorry.
But also the Facebook page that I reference on there, I changed the name of it too.
Okay, so work with Matt on getting
All
that
right, well,
done.
give me the name of the Facebook page. And what
Matt
I'll do
did
is-
email out the bond language from the planning board, if everybody gets a chance to
It's
review that.
also on the cloud too, in case you can't find the email.
Mm-hmm. And then once we get the RFP, then we can issue the bond.
Can I just?
I'm sorry, that's different.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and that's on 101 Pleasant, so.
I looked over that quickly, and I just want a yes or no answer. Can we issue a bond on a piece of property?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually, we have the powers
I'll give you
within
the
our
30-minute
regulations.
explanation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I want.
Kinder Morgan access letter you do have, and have forwarded that to the,
Yeah, they said they're granting us access. They
Town
want some
manager.
supplemental information, which I'm gathering from Adam.
yeah, I did see that, so get that from Adam. And we did review quickly the algae report from Lake Shirley. And action item moving forward for the next meeting, you're gonna contact Ruth Street, bring them up to speed on what still needs to be done to remediate that violation.
Was that an action item or part of the enforcement list?
Well, put it as an action item, because it's something that we definitely want to have done for the next meeting.
Would the action item be add all the enforcements to the enforcement section of the agenda?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the second would be 338 Sunset. You're gonna produce a one-page narrative on what they need to bring back up to code with their NOI. 701 Reservoir, contact the landowner on the agreement of what they were gonna do for remediation for
Got it.
their house. And work with Adam and the town manager on 190 Electric 225 Pleasant to continue to help them with their RFP. And review to see if there are any other outstanding enforcement orders or violations that we have that have not made it onto the perpetual enforcement list. Any other action items for Matt to work on? Yes?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I could, I know we jumped a little bit. I wanted to give you a little bit of an update on the
Does it have to do with action items?
Well,
Let's finish action items first.
Okay, we jumped past the reports.
That's fine.
So-
Yep.
Okay,
We'll-
let's finish the action items
Let's
then,
finish
okay.
where we've already started. Any other items for Matt to put at the top of his list for,
Yeah, just going along with the enforcements, he was also gonna put the due date. I think you captured it in minutes, but it's kind of an action item.
yeah, the continuation dates?
Yep.
All right, anything else for that? And you're gonna contact LSIC on an update for the next meeting? All right, Jack?
Okay, just a quick update on the progress the Stormwater Committee's making. The last meeting, we did spend quite a bit of time preparing for the selectmen in terms of defining the scope of the consultant that we'd like to use. I don't know if there was a vote, Paula, with regard to approving the use of the outside consultant. Yeah, there was, okay, I just hadn't kept up on it. But the real neat thing about it is that we're starting to look at how we collect information. And essentially, we're looking at a GIS system, and it's a geographical information system. And Paula's making faces at me, but the reality is we're seeing if our mass coalition might have some data, what our access could be. And we're looking at that potentially as becoming a repository for information by site. And I think Mrs. Bertram wants to say something, but I'll let you say that, Paula. But again, we're exploring that, who can do it, who can run it, does it make sense, does the town actually have access to it? Go ahead, Paula, I know you're dying to jump in.
Let me just jump in, because this came up, Mrs. Luck had brought this up at our selectmen's meeting, and actually, MRPC is in the process of doing that. Under the Unified Planning Work Program, they had funds last year to put together a GIS system relative to stormwater, and they were granted some more money this year, and they hope to have it up by the end of September. And they actually, you should have received, they're soliciting input from all of the communities on what they would like to see in this application. And what it will do is it will track stormwater structures, it will have the ability to do testing, the ability to determine the structure, track the GPS coordinates. So it will do a lot of what you're looking for. And it will be a database that has all of that information. So they actually sent out all of the forms that they plan to incorporate in the application. I talked to Brian Doherty at MRPC, who's kind of spearheading this effort. He indicated that he would really welcome the feedback from Lunenburg and from the Stormwater Task Force. So I did send those out. I know they bounced back, and Phyllis sent them out in 2 different emails. So they're going to make it available for free for all member communities.
Oh, excellent.
So rather than trying to look at buying a system, certainly I think we need to pursue that avenue
Seeing if we could
first.
tin cup or borrow. The implications for our group are tremendous in terms of, we're talking about turbidity, we're talking about inflow, they're talking about stormwater. We can start collecting data out of that GIS system as well. And,
Well, we have a lot of the data on the stormwater structures themselves and the conditions, at least back from the original report that was done.
So you should be able to take all those shape files and send them over.
And all of those shape files exist. So I would really urge the Stormwater Task Force to get that information to Brian Doherty.
yeah, because now we can start looking at where the nutrients are coming from, not just sand and all the other things. So this is a big step for us.
Great.
So have you guys given any thoughts to the People GIS software offered by the Central Mass Stormwater Coalition?
Well, that's where we were looking, and, go ahead, Paula.
I know that was one of the questions, and I'm not sure, that's something I would urge the Stormwater Task Force to look at what MRPC is creating, look at how it can work in tandem with the People software, or which version you want to go with. But this application is being designed with federal money to meet the requirements of all the communities, so they are soliciting input. So if there are things that you would like to see built into this application, let them know.
Well, the nice part about that is that if you have something that does meet all those specs with your regional MRPC, if the town ever decides it doesn't want to participate in the coalition anymore, it doesn't lose all that data.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's smart thinking.
And one last thing, we're running ads for compost and stormwater barrels. If anybody wants one, give it a look. Okay, that's it.
Great.
What is our MRPC?
Montechusett Regional Planning Commission.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Jack, I want a rain barrel.
You want a rain barrel?
I do want a rain
All
barrel.
right, moving
I actually
forward.
might take the compost.
Bob,
Any other
there's a
communications
Montechusett
as
Trail
we're
Commission, too.
running late here?
Regional Trail Commission, I don't know if you're familiar with that.
So, barrels, all those fellas.
Let's just check my folder. I usually.
I'm trying to push us along here.
I know.
While he's checking that, our next meeting will be September 7th at the Ritter Land Use Building, 960
Actually,
Mass Ave.
October 31st, right?
Oh, you're right, August 31st at the Ritter.
No, actually, it looks like we covered everything that I had for communications during the agenda.
All right. Any other public comment
There was
from?
one, Christopher Environmental, you guys have
That's
that
right,
in your cloud, notifying us of the exempt work.
Right, and the address was wrong. It was Lancaster Avenue,
Right, it was
not
Lancaster
Mass.
Ave, not Mass Ave, and then there was the communication we got from the Sewer Commission about the
bootleggers.
grease trap.
Yes, yep.
And that's it.
Okay. Any public comment from the commission? Any public comment from the public? Seeing none, I'll accept the motion to close and adjourn. We have a motion from Tom we have a second by Bob. All those in favor say aye.
Hey, we're 45 minutes better than the last meeting. We're making progress.
That was an hour.